Welcome, everyone. Sorry, we are running a tad late, but we are here. No, everybody's kind of ready. I'm running late, for crying out loud.
Okay, blame Drac then.
There you go. Blame me. That's why all that's happening. So welcome. So last week we did a BlizzCon 2018 predictions kind of panel just to say, like, what do we think was going to happen there? And now BlizzCon is literally in the taillights, and let's go ahead and talk the amazing announcements that did happen with BlizzCon 2018, as well as the epic failures of BlizzCon 2018. And I am not alone in this, as I'm being joined by the returning panel, as well as somebody new. So let's go ahead and introduce the new guy. We have Brinton Volley of BPV Gaming. Now, Brinton was going to join us, but unfortunately, well, kids. Pretty much all I need to explain. So he was going to join us for the predictions, but he's here now. You have watched some BlizzCon. You've got some good announcements you want to talk about. You got some bad. And then I'm also being joined by Rising Sun Reviews, as well as the Art of Anime on YouTube. I always want to do that because you have the Art of Anime on as your YouTube deal, and then Twitter is Art of Anime YouTube. And so it's just like all merged together. So BlizzCon was kind of a thing, guys. And I think it's only appropriate for us to start things off by discussing the failure first, which was the veritable thud of a last announcement at the opening ceremony called Diablo Immortal. Now, thankfully, we have some diverse opinions in here, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys my opinion of it first, and then we'll get into you guys really quick. When they first announced Diablo Immortal, I was not against it. I thought at least the story was compelling enough to be able to do something with it. The only thing that worried me was that they immediately announced that, like, this was going to be a mobile game. And I had to sit there in my head and go check the website and see what it's actually capable of. And I'm just sitting there in my head going, there's no way that they wouldn't release this for PC. That's where the Diablo base is. That's where they would release it first, because as any game company knows, like you when you release a game of an established property, you release it on the familiar consoles that they're used to seeing it on, and then you make the sprint for the new fans. You make the sprint for the new people playing the game.
Kingdom Hearts would like a word with you on that.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm saying not every. I'm saying almost all. Because Square Enix is kind of weird that way.
Yeah, I need to play Kingdom Hearts at some point, but I've heard it's like spans 25 games over 52 systems.
Yeah, pretty much. Mostly handheld, too. So at that point, like, I was still sitting there going, this is still going to be pretty good. It has potential, but I'm hoping there's no possible way that they could get it not for PC. And then the Q&A happened. And they pretty much confirmed it's mobile only. They're still in an early concept stage for a lot of these decisions, but they are, because of the partnership with NetEase, it's going strictly mobile. And I was kind of there with most of the audience in a chorus of boos and saying, this is a bad idea. This is an absolute misstep. I even made sure to voice my opinion on the announcement trailer video on YouTube. I'm actually kind of surprised mine hasn't been removed yet, because everybody else's comments have been deleted numerous times. So that's surprising to me. But yeah, that was kind of my viewpoint on the matter. I wasn't against the idea of it. I thought actually with the 20-year gap that they were proposing, there was still plenty of stuff to do, but I wasn't going to play it on a mobile phone. I was not going to play it on an iPad, because I've played mobile games before. And I don't care how much people want to peddle that this is the greatest supercomputer ever devised. It's not, in the fact that, you know, your PlayStation right there is dedicated to the game you're playing. That's what it's doing, as well as any other minor functions that it needs to sustain itself. That's not the case here. With any given smartphone, you have 20 to 30 apps active at any given moment. This is a very cluttered PC. And there's no way you're going to be able to get optimum specs for any game that makes you have to do any kind of split-second decisions on this. It's just not going to work. You're going to experience lag at some point. You're going to have frame rate problems. This is just one guy's opinion, but it's an opinion based out of experience. It's just going to happen. And therefore, like, if they decide again, and I hope that they learn from these panels that they need to put this on PC, because if they don't, I honestly think this is going to be an absolute failure. Let's actually go to the art of anime. What was your take on Diablo Immortal?
So the first time that they said it was a mobile game, I was like, okay, I already have many questions about this. I want to know how certain areas of it function, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't that interested in the beginning to even look at the Q&A about Diablo.
Pretty much.
So I don't know the specifics about Immortal. Guilty of Mine sent a nice image of an empty line, so that's good. I saw IGN uploaded a video about the controversy of the reskin that you were mentioning, and it's disliked into oblivion. Like 95% dislike ratio.
Let me bring that up really quick before we get any further. So there's new evidence based on what we've learned about the partnership with NetEase. There actually is another NetEase game out there called Endless of God. And when you actually look at the trailers together, and there are videos now out on YouTube that show you both, it's hard not to say that Diablo Immortal is a skin over Endless of God. It's very hard. Like, I looked at it from every angle. I cannot make that. I cannot justify to anybody that there's no possibility that it was a skin kind of thing. So with that, go ahead and continue, and we'll probably even leave a link in the description.
I still think, despite that, it still looks like Diablo.
Yeah,
but will it play like Diablo? When I actually get my hands on it, will it feel like I'm playing D2 or D3, or will it just feel like a trashy, laggy mobile game?
Yeah, and it's supposed to be, according to Wyatt Chang and the other, according to Wyatt Chang and the other two on the Q&A, it's supposed to be like a fusion of the best things of Diablo 2 as well as the best things of Diablo 3. It's supposed to be where they learn the mistakes of Diablo 3. And
that remains to be seen.
It's very hard to make that assessment when it's mobile and you already have a brand spanking new control scheme. If this thing was coming out to console, I could at least say, like, okay, well, they've done console before. So yeah, you can actually make that comparison. In fact, that was the other thing that, while talking to my brother about it, is kind of what he wanted announced, is if you wanted to do it for mobile, why not move it to Switch? And just because you already worked out the deal for the Eternal collection, why not just move it to Switch and then see what happens?
Yeah, it just feels like you can't get the same feel as a mobile game as you can a console game. So I don't see how it can really feel like Diablo, though I haven't really played either. So
yeah, that's kind of the issue that we kind of run across. So so overall, like you are at least going to try it, Art.
I'm going to attempt to try it.
Okay. All right. So there we go. Let's go ahead and go to Rising Sun, because you kind of mentioned your thoughts on it initially. What was your take on Diablo Immortal?
Well, tonight I've decided I'm going to agree with everything Art says. So what he said.
And also there will be...
when you don't play Diablo.
I tried Diablo 3 a little bit and just couldn't get into it, but I didn't play it much, so that could be why.
You might as well just play Diablo 2.
Yeah, so I have no interest in Diablo. I don't care about it having a mobile game or not. Mm-hmm. A mobile game doesn't interest me enough to want to go try it unless people say it's awesome, which I'm very hesitant in that. So yeah, I don't care about Diablo. I don't care about mobile games. So we should move on to the next panelist.
The other thing too, I also want to point out is a lot of people make these comparisons. I don't know if you guys actually saw this announcement on the EA showcase at E3, but EA actually made a very similar mistake to Diablo Immortal when they announced Command & Conquer Rivals, where they basically took a very well-established franchise and put it in a mobile setting and showed just absolute minimal effort and littered it with microtransactions. And it was very clear what the intention of Command & Conquer Rivals was. And a lot of people are making that comparison here. And like Blizzard's statements on the matter have not helped that. The other thing that hasn't helped by it is a lot of people will probably know the memes that are coming out of the Diablo Q&A, specifically the second coming of Red Shirt Guy, who basically came out and asked if this was an off-season April Fool's joke, as well as the one guy basically asking, is this coming to PC? Getting told no. And Wyatt Chang saying the dumbest possible thing he could have possibly said, which was, you got phones, right?
I saw a nice meme posted in my guild Discord of J. Allen Brack saying the traditional World of Warcraft thing.
You think you
want
want
it, but you don't. And then Wyatt Chang saying, you don't want it, but you do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think I saw that on Reddit.
See, that to me was about as irresponsible as, if you guys remember the infamous quote that came out of the Xbox One announcement, where they announced that the console would be online all the time, and they immediately got addressed, like, what happens if you have a really bad internet connection and all that. And his answer was, oh, well, we've got an answer for that. It's called the Xbox 360. That's kind of how flat that announcement fell to me, especially in the fact that you didn't, because a lot of people love playing that J. Allen Brack quote, but the thing they don't realize is that there's always context after it, and people just like to take the meme. He always explains it. Wyatt Chang did not do that this time. He basically said, you got phones, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that my wife doesn't.
What if all I have is a flip phone?
My brother-in-law does not. And so what you're basically saying to those people who play Diablo on PC is, well, sucks to be you. Kind of like Xbox.
I think the bigger issue with the outrage is that, like, Diablo is hyped because, like, they have the what next thing right after the opening ceremony, which is pointing to, like, Diablo is the big announcement for the year. And it's been like 6 or ever how many years since Diablo 3 or Reaper of Souls, and now they are basically, so people are thinking there's more Diablo based off what we saw before, and then they get something they're completely uninterested in. It'd be like if Warcraft, when you expect a new expansion, they instead say, oh, we're going to port a Warcraft to the Switch, and that's all.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Brinton, we've been kind of talking over you for a second, but you have a different reaction to Diablo Immortal.
Yeah.
Just very softly.
You make it sound like we're going to gang up on you.
Well, I mean, well, it's a possibility that you all will, and I may have to stand my ground a little bit, but I kind of want to work my way backwards from what I said. And I don't know how the three of you will take this, or the community who's watching, but like, Blizzard, like, I feel like the entire community hyped up Diablo 4, thinking beforehand, we're going to get D4, we're going to get D4, we're going to get D4, based on just titles of panels. And Blizzard even said before BlizzCon that we're not announcing D4. So in a sense, everybody went in hyped for something that we already knew we were not getting. And so I feel that the overall reactions are very inappropriate and poor. I get that mobile games are not for everybody, like Rising Sun has said, but oh shit. Sorry, that was my alarm. But it's the alarm
on your mobile device?
Yes, on my mobile device. That, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not like a huge fan of mobile games either, because most of them are just King Games making the same Candy Crush game 50 billion times. Even some of the Nintendo mobile games I haven't been the hugest fan of, because I even have thought to myself as well, why can't you just put this on a Nintendo console? Like, I've thought that about Super Mario Run. I've thought that about the Fire Emblem game. I thought that about Animal Crossing. And simply put, I just don't play them. End of story. But at least I gave them a chance, because I'm and a Nintendo fan. I'm a fan of those individual franchises. Well, maybe not so much Fire Emblem, but the point I'm trying to make is I'm a fan of the franchises. And so I had to give it a chance at least before I could truly say that it is not what I was expecting and it is not a good game. So I think it's fair to say that maybe this is Blizzard's way of trying to break into the mobile market and trying to get, profit from making mobile games. And just comparing other video game companies that have been trying to do that as well. I mean, it's not just Nintendo, it's also Square Enix, and I don't like any of their Final Fantasy mobile games. Like, it really just does not work, which is completely fine. But who's to say that Diablo Immortal can't be that first game to make something work? We can't say, and I mean, we can't say anything about that until we actually sit down and are able to play it for ourselves. Sure. I'm not entirely sure if there is a demo of it at BlizzCon. I haven't really.
There are stations at BlizzCon.
I think there was,
but
because I haven't watched
it's not active. If that's what you're asking.
Yeah, because the only What's Next panel, like the only panel I've seen since the opening ceremony is World of Warcraft. So I'll be able to be a little bit more on that hype train once we get to that point in the conversation. But I haven't watched really anything else, including Overwatch, which I want to watch tonight after this. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that people need to calm their jets. We're still getting D4. And I think anybody who I hope is listening, who's been a big Blizzard fan for as long as they have been, in just the 2 years that I have been incorporated into the Blizzard community, I very much feel and believe that Blizzard is a company that doesn't just show and announce things half-assed. They show things that are more or less ready to be released within a month or two of its announcements. Okay. And if D4 is not, obviously D4 wasn't announced, and that just means that it's not ready to be released. There's nothing that Blizzard wants to show its audience because it's just not what they do. And I think a really good example of companies that are really bad at that, unfortunately, Square Enix, because they've kind of dropped the ball with the Final Fantasy VII remake, and they've even flat out admitted it, where they were like, "Oops."
You could make the argument they've been kind of dropping the ball with Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
it took so long.
No, I completely agree. So I mean,
they've been dropping the ball since 2006.
I mean, that's a good decade or more of just dropping the ball. So those are just roughly my opinions.
Are you ready? Are you ready for me to shock you right here and now?
I mean, go for it. I'm ready.
You're not wrong.
I wasn't expecting that response.
No, I'm pretty much mostly in agreement with what he said too.
Because the bottom line is that yes, this is also a downside of the hype machine. Is that once we see, because it wasn't just the announcements that they made. We've also seen I don't follow this level of hype machine myself, but I know people who will follow job postings at Blizzard, and here's oh my gosh, the job that looks like Diablo 4. That has to be Diablo 4. And a lot of
I've seen I've seen articles about that floating around as well, and actually it's I don't think any of it has come from you. I think it's just stuff that pops up on my Twitter feed, and because and I think the reason why I saw some of that is because people will start posting things about oh, there's even new Overwatch stuff. They're adding more to the story. Wow, and it's okay.
But that's the thing is a lot of this is kind of based on the fact that we got the hype machine going. Even I did. I took those job posting announcements and thought, okay, it might not be Diablo 3. It might be Diablo 2 remastered. Even though Dave Brevik came out, the actual creator of Diablo 2, who isn't working with Blizzard anymore, said that would be a colossal undertaking to be able to remaster Diablo. You'd be basically remaking it from the ground up. So at that point, yeah, it's kind of partially our fault, and I have no problem admitting that, because that's what we do in life. We have to occasionally be accountable for the things that we did wrong. Here's one question though, just before we kind of wrap this up, that I want to ask you guys is that I've been seeing this bounced around a lot online, and I actually think it lends some credence to be discussed. And that is, do we actually think Diablo Immortal was a Blizzard decision or an Activision decision?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
And here's the argument that I would pose. I think it was Activision, because this just reeks of something that, say, EA or competitors of EA would do. No evidence to support that.
One thing that might actually kind of support that is the fact that the Activision parent company also owns, I think it's King's something, who has Candy Crush. I looked at the Activision financial things because I'm curious about them, and they are
released through that.
Yeah, so they see that Activision say, "Oh, we make lots of money through Candy Crush," or ever who that parent, how that works. So they might be wondering, well, if we can take a popular Blizzard franchise, maybe we can make a lot of money here too.
Yep, exactly.
So I can see the reason why they would do that. Again, it doesn't prove it, but it's possible, I'd say.
It's definitely possible, and actually a little bit more appropriate given the record that we have. Do you guys by chance remember the last time Activision interfered with Blizzard's efforts? It was the release of Diablo 3. Because Activision demanded that Diablo 3 be released.
I was going to say that to piggyback on the whole Activision thing, if you look at the other just mobile apps they've released, which are very minor in the grand scheme of things,
yes.
One being just a port of Hearthstone to mobile. But even that Hearthstone port on mobile, it's Hearthstone.
Yeah,
it's not some watered down version of the game.
Yeah, it's like you play against people who have computers. It's the exact same thing.
I would think that Blizzard themselves, the company that releases things when they're ready to be released, would take more care into what they're showing. Like what Brinton was saying, they show things when they're ready, not half-assing it like Square or other companies would. I think if Blizzard was more involved in this, it would look less like another game.
Yeah, and that's kind of the issue that I actually have with it, is that a lot of the decision-making process, as well as Wyatt Chang's obvious look of he is not going to be able to possibly sell this, tells me this was imposed by Activision. And that might have been a bad idea.
Well, another thing that comes to mind, because the psychologist in me is now activating and getting involved in all this, is
don't worry, I'll bill you later.
Okay, good, thanks. I'm very expensive. Anyway.
Okay, send my bill to Art, please.
The announcement would, I mean, as they were announcing it, and just the inflections in tone and just the way that it was presented and how they were talking about it in the opening ceremony, it very much sounded like something like, oh my gosh, look at this amazing thing that we have, especially since it was the very last announcement. So that's another thing that I feel that could support Activision's involvement in getting this released, and Blizzard's attempt at making it making it this is something that you do all want to play. It's a new Diablo, something new, check it out, please get it, stuff like that.
Pretty much. And that's why in a lot of cases I kind of wonder if this was the parent company trying to impose and not learning their lesson from last time, which was, if you do that, then it's going to blow up in your face. Kind of like what we've seen with EA over the last few years. And
another reason that might point to Activision involvement is the prominence that the Diablo had, at the end of the opening ceremony, the what's next thing being right after that. It's from Blizzard's perspective, a mobile game, I'd say, is less exciting than a big update for WoW. So if you're going to put your biggest thing there, you would not put Diablo there. So Activision might have also really wanted to shoehorn in Diablo as being a really big thing, even though from the Blizzard and the Blizzard fan base perspective, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like a lot of people might actually ask the question of like, why? I can't give you that reason why. I have theories on it, but internal business politics between Activision and Blizzard is kind of hard to get by. For the most part, they've always had the relationship of get out of my way and you can continue to earn money from this. But over the last few years, I've kind of wondered if Activision is starting to flex their muscles, so to speak, and not necessarily caring if it's going to hurt the games or not, which is a bad idea because considering like I've been hearing dropping COD numbers for years and Blizzard continues to outsell the previous iteration over and over again. Like we keep on hearing about that with WoW. It's not a good idea to get in Blizzard's way. And unfortunately, I think Activision did exactly this, and that's why there was an emphasis on the hype machine, why we had to have the last announcement be Diablo Immortal, and then eventually why the Diablo What's Next panel had to happen.
Yeah, it might be oversimplifying things, but it kind of feel like Activision is going after the short-term games because they'll obviously make money off the mobile game, but I feel it'll be hurting Blizzard's brand as a whole. So when like they've released Diablo 4, people will be less excited for it after being possibly burned by the mobile game.
Yep. The one thing I also just want to wrap up on, and then we'll move on into other things, is that just kind of my plea that I've been making over the last few days, and I think even Brenton would agree with this, because there were good things with those panels, they were bad. And my only thing that I beg that Blizzard do, especially the Diablo team, is listen and learn what happened at those panels. Listen and learn from it. And if it means that you have to take a few things back to the drawing board, like say a PC version, then do that because you're Blizzard. That's what you do.
And the thing is, I'm sure that we will honestly get it eventually because
I hope so, yeah.
Because and the reason and the evidence to support that, and you all may laugh at this because I'm already kind of chuckling to myself, but the evidence to support that it may possibly be getting a PC port is World of Warcraft Classic.
Yeah, no, it's entirely possible that, you know, the other evidence that I would give to kind of support your argument is what is the basis of Blizzard games? It's always been the PC. So at that point, to say that they're not going to fund a PC iteration is actually like backwards speak. It's like 2 + 2 = fish for Blizzard. Right. So at that point, I think in all honesty, they're going to reconsider that, but maybe they had to push the mobile version because Activision. So with that being said, let's move on into the other announcements that we actually had. And I guess the next thing to start off with is StarCraft. Okay, moving on.
I agree.
I've never played a single StarCraft game. I
keep on walking myself into this pit, but I'll keep doing it next year too. I'm hoping for StarCraft 3. It's never going to happen.
That's like waiting for Half-Life for 3.
Pretty much. It's one of those things where we know that it's not the Valve situation where we know Blizzard can count to 3, but it just depends on the franchise when they can count to 3.
Okay, so what do you think of this then? StarCraft 3, but as a mobile game only.
F that noise.
Moving on.
So, there you go. I kind of want to get into the mid announcements really quick, and then we'll get into the higher stuff. I have a feeling a lot of what we have to talk about, obviously, is WoW. But let's go ahead and go into the what I actually consider to be the lesser announcement, just when you take all the 3 games into account and the overall reaction. And Brenton might smack me for this, but it is Overwatch. And it's not for any reason that Overwatch is bad or their announcement was bad by any stretch. It's just, unfortunately, the announcements that came from the other games, I think, sparked a little bit more intrigue than the reveal of the character in Overwatch. So
I agree. So there's no slapping to be had. I'm very much on the same page with you.
So first of all, what did you guys think of the McCree short?
I thought it was a little long, but overall good.
I thought it was one of their best.
I think it made me look better at McCree than I usually do when playing Overwatch.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I'm not a fan of Westerns by any stretch, so like the McCree character wasn't ever going to resound with me. But, you know, unfortunately, a lot of the games that I have to deal with a McCree, I have to deal with what I call the corner high noon, which is just basically somebody build. So a McCree will build up to their ultimate and then go hide in a corner somewhere where it's like a choke point. And then all of a sudden they'll come out of nowhere, which aptly enough, this got made fun of in the reveal trailer. He'll come out of nowhere and all of a sudden you hear it's high noon and bam, 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 bam. And that's how a McCree wins kind of thing. So
yeah, pretty much.
I don't have a lot of love because of that, but I will admit that the reunion short was pretty good. Especially from a character we're about to talk about, and it's not the actual character that got revealed. I have a feeling this is a weird deal where the side character stole the show, and frankly, if he is not his own character soon, that will be a crying shame. But we had the reveal of Ash, who I'm guessing is a past love interest of McCree, but she is also one of the founding members of the the Deadlock Gang? Is that how it said?
Yeah, I believe it was Deadlock Gang.
So she is one of the founding members of it. She is basically another Western-based character, this time instead with a rifle instead of a 6-shooter. And the biggest part of her that everybody loved, and I think the consensus here is going to be straight on, it was not necessarily Ash herself. She's a good enough character in herself, but it is her assistant, Bob. Bob stole the show. Hashtag Bob stole the show. I have no problem admitting Bob stole the show.
I agree with you that Bob was amazing, but could you imagine like the hero select and your name is Bob?
Well, I just love the fact that they were trying to. So, like the devs pretty much admitted they don't have an actual acronym there. They just wanted to call him Bob. So at that point, like you actually had
even more perfect
because they actually had questions on the floor that they answered on the panel. There's like, what is that? And so they were like sitting there on the panel going, battery operated butler. Like they were actually trying to figure it out. So I'm like, oh, this thing has no name. That's fine.
I'll go with Bob.
In fact, my favorite moment of the reunion short was when they did the classic high noon stare off. And you know that one of the characters is going to sweat. You know it's going to happen. One of them does. And it
was
swerved.
The oil sweat?
Yes, it was the swerve. It was like lubricant coming off of Bob's forehead. And then we got into the shootout. That was great, Blizzard. Bravo. So at that point, like I've already kind of told Brinton off camera, and I'll go ahead and tell everybody this now. Sorry to take the line from you, Brinton, but Ash is kind of my spirit animal.
I'm okay with that.
It's kind of like you with Moira. Like Moira became your new spirit animal. That's kind of what happened with Ash. I like a lot of the stuff that they implemented with her, especially the concept where you can be a close range fighter with her, and it is encouraged to do so, but you can also be a fairly good sharpshooter with her as well. I actually think she is going to be a damage that has a lot of viable uses, and I'm more than willing to come back to Overwatch just to try out Ash. But what was you guys' take on the reveal of Ash as well as Bob? Handlebar mustache. I'm sorry, robotic handlebar mustache.
I'm not the biggest Overwatch player. I think she's a cool character concept and all that. Will it get me going back to play the game? Maybe to try her out, because I haven't played it since before Sombra. So
Sombra was a really cool reveal. So it's kind of hard to one up that.
Oh yeah, that was like months of building up to that moment, and I was at BlizzCon that year when she was revealed, and it was just so insane.
I think the real Overwatch announcement we got to talk about is the Lucio O's.
I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, that happened.
And what made that worse was I think it was Kat Hunter, who was on the panel for the news desk with Alex Albrecht. And I love Kat Hunter occasionally. Like she has some really good moments, but I love the fact that they actually right before the opening ceremony had to show her hogging the Lucios from Alex Albrecht. That was awesome as far as I'm concerned. Oh my gosh. So Brinton, you're kind of the Overwatch player here. What did you think about the overall kit for Ash? You're normally kind of a healing or DPS player. Does this look like something that you could pick up?
Not. I mean, I'll try her out in the PTR, maybe a little bit once she goes live on the servers after her release. But I don't think it's something that I will play like regularly. I mean, her kit is cool and all. I love how diverse it is. As more and more heroes get entered into the game, it always like a curiosity always sparks with, you know, what could they do next? How can they make each, you know, how will they continue to make each and every single hero that has been added so far different and unique, that adds a different style of gameplay, and what does it mean for like the quote unquote meta? Not that I really care all that much about the meta. And then, you know, then as we start to slowly approach the second season of the Overwatch League, obviously Ashe is going to be available like 100% when that happens. So it's like, I look forward to seeing how the pro players play Ashe, because I learned a lot of like neat tips from watching pro players during the inaugural season. Before I watched the opening ceremony, my husband kind of like, I wouldn't really say spoil, but he did let me know like, oh, there are 2 new heroes. And I was like, wait, what, 2? Like what? He's
not wrong. I really do think Bob is coming.
Yeah. There are 2 new heroes, just not confirmed yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, as I was watching Reunion, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I mean, I thought it was one of their best so far. There were like little things here and there that I was like picking out just because we've known McCree like for 2 years now. So little things like how at the beginning of the short, it was like 5 to 12. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're totally going to do something with like High Noon. Like, that's just classic.
Of course they would. It's McCree.
No, 100%. And my husband even he even pointed out, funny that you like, that's the first thing you noticed. And I was like, well, it's just obvious. But I guess what I'm ultimately building up to is that I felt like Ashe's reveal was a little underwhelming. I appreciate the lore drop that we got with Echo and McCree.
Yeah, that's the other cool part about this cinematic is that you got Ashe. You technically have a reveal for Bob later down the line. And the other thing that also I think helps that is that they confirmed that Bob is like he's confirmed to be hero number 29.5. So at that point, that does lend for them to go back and go look at him. But then you also had the reveal of Echo. And so it gave people something to theorize about in the months to come.
Because I feel like lately Blizzard hasn't really dropped anything on like any of like the Overwatch's media and like anything that could help people speculate on lore. So I haven't really been into it as much as I used to be, especially with Sombra, because that's what got me into like all the little leaks and lore leaks and what it could mean for this overarching story. And with the reveal and the introduction of Echo and just the way that she interacted and spoke with McCree, it speaks volumes of how he could be in cahoots with such an advanced piece of like Omnic technology.
And then he also mentioned Winston, so it makes you like wonder how is he integrated into Echo.
Remember when he mentioned Winston, he called him the monkey. And Echo didn't know who the monkey was.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. I was wondering about that. That actually is intriguing. He might not actually, or she might not actually know who Winston is.
So there's a lot of things about Overwatch's past that can be brought into question as well. So I really appreciated what we got from that, and I look forward to seeing like all the theories that will arise from it. And I look forward eventually to seeing like Echo's kit once she's revealed as like, okay, we're ready to like release her out into the world of Overwatch. But ultimately I feel like Ashe was just one of those heroes where, well, it's BlizzCon, it's about time to throw out another hero. I think this is something fun that we could add into the game, which I'm not saying that she won't be a fun character, but for me, it was just kind of like, I'll try her out, but I'm really not going to play her.
Yep. This was one that I just got excited about, just because there hasn't been a whole lot of new heroes that have caught my fancy. Like, I know you love Moira, and Moira was kind of interesting to me just in the aesthetic. But
well, I mean, I got play the game in the recording that we did just to tell you how good of a Moira player I am.
And that was on Remastered.
Well, I mean, and that was playing with an Xbox controller, and that was wonky as hell.
But like for me, the reveal of Sombra, while cool, Sombra's not necessarily a character I'm going to play. I've played a little bit of Brigitte since then. I'm not entirely sold on Brigitte. I actually had the strangest thing was I had fun with crap. I can't remember her name, but the other Bastion-like character, Orisa, when I played her, and also when I played Doomfist. Because did I play Doomfist? I can't remember anymore. It's been so long. But yeah, I was excited for Ana or for Ashe, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can actually do with her and the viability that comes with her. But let's go ahead and final thoughts on this one. Do you guys have anything else? If not, let's go ahead and move to the announcement that I think eclipsed it slightly, which was Heroes of the Storm, and the fact that we now have a unique character being announced that is Heroes of the Storm exclusive. She is not from the Warcraft universe. She is not from StarCraft or anything like that. She is a being completely derived from the Nexus, and that was Orphea, which basically opened the door of Heroes of the Storm's potential to not just be like, oh, well, we've got to have this Diablo character and this Heroes character and this Hearthstone character and all that. We can then make characters ourselves. And I think there's tons of potential there, and that kind of eclipsed the reveal of Ashe because nobody thought Heroes of the Storm was going to go down that way. We all thought it was just going to be Blizzard All-Stars, and now we know that's not necessarily the case. What were you guys' thoughts on Orphea?
She looks like Jaina's edgy younger sister.
Pretty much.
I love it.
Specifically Elsa Jaina's emo younger sister.
I think it does open up interesting places for like the whole Heroes of the Storm story to go, if that's something they want to focus on. Because I've only played it a few times, but it feels like everything they do with Heroes is just about the gameplay, not really the story that they could tell.
In fact, I'm thoroughly convinced that the StarCraft 2 team has been moved down to a skeleton crew, and that the remaining elements have been moved to Heroes.
Yeah, I thought they were like originally like the same team works on both games, so that's probably what they're doing.
Yeah, and then at some point they cut the team in half, and then eventually with Heroes' popularity and with the Nova Covert Ops not doing very well, they gutted the StarCraft team and moved everybody over to Heroes.
Yeah, just doing this, basically just keeping StarCraft to have something new every now and then focus just on Heroes.
So yeah, I think it was overall a really awesome announcement. Very Lovecraftian in a few ways. Like she has that shadow fiend that can just come out of nowhere and eat everybody and take it down to hell.
Right.
That was actually pretty freaking awesome. But unfortunately, there's to my knowledge, because I haven't watched the deep dive yet, I don't know if they actually had an arena to announce there too. I also found it interesting that the Raven Lord showed up in it, and I wonder if he's probably going to be the next Nexus specific character that they announce.
That would make sense, since I didn't know who he was. Like, again, I don't follow Heroes, but I think it might be interesting, like, to have him as like the villain, her as the hero, and how they can all the other characters.
Because we know that she's the heiress of the Raven Lord, and that's why she showed up, because she went off to go fight the Raven Lord in her announcement. But Brinton, Art, do you guys have any thoughts on Orphea?
Not really.
The only thing that I would want to say, and it echoes what was just said previously, is the fact that Heroes of the Storm is a game that I felt didn't really have like an overarching like story or theme going on, which is something that I really, really like about games, which is why I play video games in the first place. I started to like, the more I like played Heroes of the Storm, I enjoyed it more. So the fact that we have a character that is born in the Nexus and is like pretty much a Heroes of the Storm specific character, and the fact that some sort of story is now emerging from her reveal tells me that maybe that specific team will start heading in that direction, and just kind of like how how the different worlds of Blizzard are gonna like, and why they're so intertwined. I don't know. I just liked how there's a little bit more of a story element that comes with this new hero. But in terms of whether or not I'm going to be playing this hero, I mean, like you said, Drac, I like to stick more to healers. But surprisingly, I really like playing tanks in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah,
I'm not like
beefier characters.
Yeah, I like sticking with more beefier characters because that like connects well with me. But anyway, like the point is, again, I'll try her, but I'm probably not going to like aggressively play her. That, and I'm like, I don't really have the money to spend on it anyway. So
I think there you go. That's pretty much the potential that happened. And I like the fact that they made a hero specifically built in the Nexus. So that at that point we can start seeing, I love the Diablo themed maps and I love the StarCraft themed maps. Don't get me wrong, but I loved the initial maps that went into the initial launch of Heroes of the Storm, all these different worlds that you could then eventually travel into and the potential that could come from them. And now where a lot of people, I've had this argument numerous times, I don't know if you guys have with Heroes, is that it's trying to be competitive with League of Legends, but it's not, because it's not trying to create new heroes. It's basically going into the Blizzard backlog. And now I don't think that's the case anymore, because now with Orphea, they're basically saying that, yeah, we're going to make some unique characters to this. We can compete. And I mean, if I had to give you my personal bias, I think Blizzard does it better than Riot. And I know that a lot of people love League and a lot of the heroes that come out of League, but when it comes to character design, I love what Blizzard's done over the many, many, many years.
And I feel like with neither game is focusing that much on the story itself, and Blizzard's just like pulling from the story they've already done. And so I think it would be interesting if they do more with Orphea in that way. But I also feel like just the way like Heroes and a lot of their recent games are, the story and the gameplay are like too disconnected for me to really be able to get into what they're doing with them.
I will say this, though. If Orphea gets brought in, I do want some kind of a story mode aside from the opening tutorial. I want something other than that.
I think that'd be really cool if they could do that, like how Orphea's story, maybe she like works with the heroes from the other games to battle the Raven Lord or whatever. That
would actually be really cool. So let's move on into the next one, which actually was probably the most optimistic announcement that they had. And aptly enough, it went right next to the most negative one. And that was Hearthstone with the announcement of Rastakan's Rumble. So you guys might have to correct me on this, but I know that there's going to be whole new cards and everything like that. But was there a single player thing attached to it?
I don't know if they remember that either.
I think it was like Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, where there's a lot of story in the cards themselves, but there was not a solo.
Yeah, I don't recall if there was a new adventure or not.
Yeah, they've had an adventure for like the past 3 expansions as well, so I don't know if...
So at this point, I would like to bring up something that happened when I was watching the announcement of Rastakan's Rumble. Because me and my older brother were actually watching together. Like he was at his house, I was at mine, but we were watching in unison and just kind of bouncing back and forth at the announcements that were happening. And this was literally his reaction when the trailer started, which was, "Oh God, not the trolls! Please God, no, not the trolls." He doesn't like trolls. He thinks they're kind of
the voodoo shuffle man.
He's always had the viewpoint that when Blizzard's trying to get lazy, they add a troll raid because they don't want to actually have to think about things.
And they had like a troll expansion, kind of.
That's kind of how he looked at Zandalar. So at that point, then after the trailer got done, he literally said, "Oh God, please more trolls. I can't wait to see what funny cards we can actually get out of this." So, I mean, you convinced him. And this guy, like, I love my brother deeply, but he will rip Zulaman, Zul'Gurub, Zul'Farrak, all of them a new one whenever you give him the opportunity. He is done with trolls. Which is going to be funny when we have another announcement to be able to say with that. But Rastakan's Rumble is basically going back to Stranglethorn Vale and the Gurubashi Arena, and we're going to be basically kind of going into the Zandalari model, where every class is going to be represented by a prominent troll priest, as well as a Loa. And a lot of the Loa that got picked out were getting massive cheers, and I kind of liked the representation that they were trying to do there, enough so that I love we got this in the chat. Hey, don't trolls keep gamers honest? Depending on the troll. But not these trolls. These trolls will just own your face. But yeah, I like the fact that they had like presiding Loa over the paladins, and then they had that like they decided to make Akali the representative of the warrior, and then do cards associated with that. This was a really fun announcement, and one that I think was sorely needed, considering that, at least in my case, where the Witchwood wasn't horrible, but it wasn't necessarily what I wanted, and Dr. Boom was not what I wanted. Like I've not been a fan of Dr. Boom. Rostacon's Rumble, I'm totally on par with. What did you guys think of Rostacon's Rumble?
It looks like it'll be a fun expansion, at least with the themes of all the cards and having the Loa be part of it. And I like how it kind of ties into what's relevant in WoW right now, too.
Mm-hmm. No, I like the fact that they did this with, especially with all of the Zandalari lore that we've been able to get. And the other thing I'm also kind of happy about, and people are going to get mad at me for, is, to my knowledge, you guys might need to correct me on it, but none of the card reveals were Bwomsamdi. And I like Bwomsamdi just as much as anybody else, but he gets a lot of spotlight in Battle for Azeroth. I'm kind of happy that the other lower are going to get a chance to get some spotlight in Hearthstone.
Well, I'm pretty sure Bwomsamdi will be one of the cards. He just isn't revealed yet.
I'm sure he'll be a legendary or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like the fact that Kragwa is going to be able to get a spotlight here, and he doesn't get too much of a spotlight after Nazmir. Hyreek is going to get a spotlight. And also all the Loa that were basically side quests in Zandalar, like Grawl, the Shark Loa, is going to be the representative of the rogues. Akali is from Vol'dun, but if you go to the northern side of Vol'dun, you get Shivala, the Tiger Loa, and he hasn't really gotten a good representation. He got a side quest.
Yeah, so now we also like know who all these Loa are, so that it actually means something when we see them as legendaries here.
Exactly. Art, Brinton, what were your take on Rostacon's Rumble?
I didn't watch it.
So just be like me and agree with Hart then.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, done.
I think it's a nice way to go back, because the old ZG is obviously gone, and we can revisit some of the old characters that may have been around.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't dig deep and get some of those fallen Loa and just give them representation, because we all kind of know that Hearthstone's lore and Warcraft's lore aren't necessarily connected. Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, everybody. We've all seen Gadgetzan. It doesn't look like that.
Yeah, Hearthstone just does what it wants with the lore.
Yeah. So at that point,
when I went to Gadgetzan and World of Warcraft, I was like, what?
Yep. Yeah.
I was disappointed.
I think I even remember telling you don't take that as the example. It's not true.
Oh, well, oops.
Yeah. But I mean, you have like really cool concepts like the Spider Loa to be able to bring back in here. She kind of wasn't there. They focused a lot on the BFA Loa, which is why I kind of agree with Rising Sun. This is connected to BFA, whereas they could have brought in like the Snake Loa from ZG, or brought in the Dragonhawk Loa from Zulaman, but that was about it.
Was there Bat too? I believe I saw Bat.
There was a Bat, but it was Hyreek. So it was
okay. I haven't done the Horde quest, so
yeah. So he's seen in Nazmir. So at that point, it's not the same one. At least I don't think it is.
I don't actually remember seeing him, but that was like 2 months ago. So
yeah,
I don't always remember things.
He's there. He works for Gahoon.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, he's one of the Loa that actually willingly went over to Gahoon. So he has his own like sect of blood trolls that worship him.
Yeah, I think that might have been like the first quest area I did. So I haven't been back to there since.
Anyway, so we interrupted you, Art. So your thoughts on Rostacon's Rumble?
I think I'll try it out at the very least, just because I'm actually a big fan of the whole troll thing.
Yeah, I like it.
So.
I didn't think I'd like a troll expansion in Hearthstone. I wasn't. I know that I'm like very much in the minority here, but I've never liked Goblin and Gnome lore, and so at that point, Goblins versus Gnomes never intrigued me at all. It was the expansions that came after that that got me going. And that was kind of the same thing with the trolls. Is like I liked them, but until we actually explored the lore, I wasn't caring. And now that I have that, I'm more than willing to do it. I will say this though, Razan needs some representation.
Yeah.
In fact, that's actually what I want to see happen. Is like if they do some kind of an adventure, we need to face Rastakhan, and it needs to be Razan that represents him for like the first round, and then he sells his soul to Bwansamdi, and then we get the one.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Like I don't know if they'll have like both low in it somehow.
That would be actually really cool. But again, I'm not sure if there's a solo adventure in here. So that's the only part that I can't confirm on it. So I think that pretty much covers Hearthstone. So let's go ahead and cover the surprise announcement before we get into the major one that we all want to talk about it. But it's okay because we're into Warcraft, people. We just got to talk about Warcraft 3 Reforged first. So this was a surprise, to say the very least.
Yeah, I didn't play that Warcraft 3 back then, so maybe this is a good chance to play it now.
I'm surprised by it because everybody told me that StarCraft Remastered, aside from dedicated fan base, it did not do very well. And so at that point, I was a little surprised to see them rebooting an RTS if they were going to have the same result. Except I can't make that claim anymore because this is way more of a reboot than StarCraft Remastered was. This is way more than that. Full-on cutscenes. We're actually going to be able to see these prominent lore moments in really great cinematic quality. I wanted to be at BlizzCon right then and there to try out the demo station that was going to have the culling of Stratholme because I wanted to see that damn cutscene to see what they were actually going to do with that. So I'm excited, if for no other reason than to get the Warcraft benefits that are going to come with it.
The meat wagon.
The meat wagon mount. I want that.
Yeah, I could see it's like $25, $30, I think. So that's worth it to try out Warcraft 3, I'd say.
Yeah, pretty much. I want to go out into the middle of Elwyn Forest and kill hapless critters with deadly toxic meat. I just want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, she can get pretty close to that as it is. So
yeah, pretty much. Aside from that, I don't think there's too much that we can add on this. I know that it's probably going to be Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne in new cinematic quality, and that's pretty much all we can add to it. It's cool looking, and I like the fact that they're going to do the multiplayer stuff as well as the map editor again. That's awesome. I think that's exactly where they should go with it. But I mean, it's Warcraft 3. Art, Brinton, any thoughts on that?
It's Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Drac, you and I both know that I started getting into anything Warcraft related when Right Around Legion was coming out. So literally 2 years ago. So the fact that when I was watching the reveal, the whole time I was thinking, damn, I wish I was watching this with my husband when he did, because he rewatched everything with me. Mm-hmm. Because that was like one of his favorite games.
Okay.
Oh yeah, to see that cutscene redone was amazing.
I can only imagine how much screaming and excitement that came from him, because that was just like that is just one of the games that set him off to being able to play World of Warcraft, which is his favorite game. Like hands down, will probably stop playing it when his doctor tells him that he can no longer play video games, sort of like situation, or when World of Warcraft eventually comes to an end, however that may occur. So after the announcement, he just turned to me and he was like, "You're going to have a mount waiting for you the next time you play World of Warcraft." And I was like, "Did you already pre-order it?" He's like, "I pre-ordered it for everyone in this house."
Nice.
are
So
you telling me he could have pre-ordered it for me?
If you come live with us. We'll build you a space in our basement.
All right.
A Warcraft
we'll be right
3
there.
space?
I mean, it would be cramped, but we'll build it.
It would be themed. It would be a meat wagon.
Yes, you will be sleeping in a meat wagon.
It'd be like one of those car bunk beds, but instead it's just a meat wagon. Awesome.
I'm excited to play because I mean I can't tell you how many times a lot of like lore related questions I've been asking have come directly out of that game, and I'm happy that I will now finally be able to like get to witness and play it for myself and have so many fucking answers. I mean, like questions answered. Oh my gosh.
Heaven forbid you'll actually understand Illidan's character and why his betrayal of everybody was not as unexpected as everybody thought it was.
Yeah, it's just like little itsy bitsy things like that. Because I mean, heaven bless my husband and brother-in-law. They've done a fantastic job answering my questions to the best of their abilities. But at the same time, they're also trying to pull out like details of lore from a game that they played over 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I would actually be very interested to see what you, because if it includes the Frozen Throne, which I'm not sure if it does or not, they haven't really answered that clearly. I would actually be very interested in what you have to think, since your first character was a hunter. You need to meet the expert hunter, the guy that pretty much defined the class, and that is Rexar, and see what you think of him.
Yay!
So. All right, and that's pretty much all we can do for Warcraft 3 Reforged without getting into other stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and also get into this one really quick to see if we have anything additional to add. But WoW Classic, the demo's out, and I was originally going to play it, and then same said older brother decided to go in for me, and he said, well, it's vanilla WoW. And I was like, both good and bad? He's like, yeah, pretty much. Like, well, thank you for doing that legwork for me. Now I know that I will not need to go back in, because it's vanilla WoW, and frankly, like I get why some people want to go back to that, and I don't know, maybe at some point I will make a character just to go and see Old Westfall or go see some older zones. I don't need to.
Yeah,
I like the modern game.
I joined with Cataclysm, so I never played vanilla WoW, so I'm kind of curious.
So you don't have that attachment.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious. Let's see. I'll try it, but I get the feeling it'll be like too slow and too much of a grind to really get into. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that they're making it. You can play it as long as it has a subscription to the original or to the normal WoW, so that makes it easy for me to go try it for a little bit if I get bored with the normal one. So
I guess the question that I'm going to ask from all of you is, like, if you actually go back in there, what is your main class in WoW and what spec do you play?
Well, that's a problem.
Well, you see, I can actually do it because I would be a prot warrior.
You'd be fine. Rising Sun, what would you be?
Well, I was thinking about playing it, and I would play a paladin, and I was thinking about making a blood elf like I played in Cataclysm.
Too bad blood elves didn't exist.
Exactly.
And by the way, if you played a paladin, you'd be a buff machine anyway.
Yeah, so
there's no such thing as a retribution paladin.
There's only something as a blessing paladin.
Yeah, I'd be okay as like a healer, but yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you would be doing. Is you'd be constantly
just like buffing everyone.
People. Yep.
Yeah.
And then let's see. I think your starting one was a Beastmaster Hunter, right?
Yeah, nope. I did really?
Marksman or nothing.
The other two just were
I chose a panda. So I mean, I'd have to choose something entirely different.
Yeah, you'd be restricted to, if you wanted to play Horde, Orc, Troll, and Tauren all have Hunter.
I'll do Orc because that's what I am now.
There you go. That's the thing is, like, I get that people want that restored experience, but I'm not against the modifications, because for crying out loud, if you wanted to play a balanced druid, there was no such thing as a balanced druid back then.
It's okay. We'll have dwarf priests again.
You will have dwarf priests again. I mean, like, what were the viable classes? Protection warrior, and then later on, the DPS warriors could technically be used.
Fury could, I believe.
Fury could, but not really arms.
Arms was PvP by itself.
Or leveling. You could do arms leveling. Paladin was restricted to holy. Druids were restricted to restoration. Shamans were pretty much restricted to enhancement / restoration.
Yeah, and then you also had Paladins being only Alliance and the Shamans only Horde.
Yep, that's the other thing too. You had Hunters restricted to Marksman. Warlocks were pretty much restricted to Affliction, unless you were the one Warlock tank that walked into Encourage. mages had probably the most viability, but you were restricted in the fact of if you were doing Molten Core, you were probably Frost, and if you were doing anything else, you were probably Fire. So
why would anybody want this?
Well, at the same time, you say that they're those specs, but the way the specs worked back then aren't the way that people see them now.
Yeah, like here
you would be halfway down into a protection tree, halfway down into a fury tree. It would be kind of a hybrid.
Yeah, because you got like 51 talent points total, and like it took 31 to go all the way down a single spec.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have like 20 points to distribute among what's left of that original one, and then the other 2, depending on what you wanted to do. So,
but to answer your question, Brenton, is like I get that there's a lot of nostalgic love for Vanilla WoW. I get that concept, but this has been kind of my argument from the beginning. Is like Vanilla WoW was great. Like it was a great starting point. It was the Wild West. It was trying to make these ideas work. But then the Burning Crusade happened and helped kind of refine a lot of that stuff. They were able to go in and make more viable tanks than warriors. Up until that point, bear druids and paladins were not a thing. The best viable healer in the game was a holy priest. And that's the way that it went. So at that point, I get that people have that nostalgia, but you got to also acknowledge that your game was also pretty broke.
And I just think about like all the conveniences we have now, like switch specs whenever you want, as opposed to being locked into one.
Yep.
Like I can pay for a respec every single time you want to change.
Oh yeah, this is the other thing.
Action bars.
This is the other thing that you will love, Brenton. How would you like to pay 100 gold to respec every time, except it builds up every time?
That sounds horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, your bars don't save either, so you have to have screenshots. To redo your bars.
That's what I hated about like when was it that they introduced it where you could be all 3 specs?
How about this simple idea, Brenton?
Warlords, I believe.
Okay, yeah, because before that, like I'd be playing my paladin and I'd be like Prot and Holy, but maybe I want to try Ret for a little bit. I'd have to go back, switch out one of the specs, redo all the bars, end up needing to go back to the other for my guild, so then I have to get rid of Ret, try to remember where all the bars were for Prot or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I cannot stick with a single spec. That's just not who I am.
The improvements have overall made the game awesome. I mean, like this is the best way to be able to describe it to you, Brenton, because again, you started as a hunter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to stock up on ammunition because that's a thing that you're going to have to pay for now.
And you're going to have one less bag because
you're going to have a quiver and or an ammo pouch, depending on what actual weapon you have. Oh, and by the way, you got to make sure to keep your pet happy. Otherwise, it could run away from you.
Oh, and then weapon skill, too.
Mm-hmm. These are conveniences that people forget aren't a thing in WoW anymore, and they were in vanilla.
So,
wow, Nathan was not kidding when he said that I was spoiled.
Britton, let's say you get a bow. You've been using a bow all through leveling, and this gun drops. You can equip the gun, but now you have to level the gun up.
No, you're joking.
Oh, and by the way, if you don't want to pay for that ammunition, guess what? Guess what one of your professions is? Engineering, because you got to make your own. Especially if you want the epic quality ammo, which does slightly more damage.
It's okay, Thoradol didn't come out till BC.
Thoradol was a blessing to hunters by that point.
Because it generated its own arrows?
Yeah, it didn't have the requirement anymore.
Okay.
We're not doing this to scare the crap out of you, Brenton, but that's pretty much
kind of are.
This is the
vanilla
experience.
I'm not playing WoW Classic. I don't really I don't really care.
And even better, running around the world until level 40. Because you didn't mounts at level 20 was implemented in BC. Actually, no, I think Wrath. So at that point, you would be running around the world until level 40, and at that point, you'd be hoping you had 100 gold so that you could buy them out.
Oh my gosh.
The slow level 20 kind.
No dungeon finder.
No dungeon finder.
You had to haul your ass to every dungeon you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted the quests for that dungeon, you had to complete the zone and pick them up in the zone the dungeon was in.
Yep, pretty much. That again, we're not trying to scare the bejeebers out of you, but this is the vanilla experience. This is why in a lot of cases I understand for the aesthetic purpose of being able to go back into the world again and be able to see it, but I am not on board with everybody else in saying that it is the superior experience to what we have right now. It is not.
And if I have limited amount of time to play, I want these convenience things so you can get more out of the time I do play.
Yeah. Or another convenience. You didn't have to deal with this, Brinton, but Warriors did. How about killing 2 mobs and then sitting down to eat and drink because you were out of health? That doesn't happen in this current day of WoW.
Or mana if you're a mana class.
Yeah, mana management was actually a thing.
Yeah, which I think is interesting from a gameplay perspective, and they threw that away for most of the DPS classes, but I still think it's something that they could do something more with.
It is something that they could bring back in some form or another. I wouldn't want the full-on vanilla mana management, but I would.
The only class that still works with that is really Arcane Mage.
Yeah,
Arcane Mage is built around it.
And I think that's like a mechanic they could add to more classes to make it more interesting.
Yeah, I just don't want them to take away from the flavor that those classes initially had.
Right.
That they currently have. But let's stop scaring Brinton here. The vanilla WoW is not going to be a thing.
I'm not scared. I'm just confused why there are enough people who really, 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 really wanted to do that again. And that was something they needed.
Because people on the internet are weird.
Because people on the internet want to prove that they have the bigger e-penis.
Oh my gosh. I feel like that's such a waste of time and resources for Blizzard.
A lot of people it's exactly that. It's a splitting of the team. And I don't necessarily like that concept. I'm glad that people are happy about it. But this is already come back to bite them in the ass, aka a lot of the issues that BFA has had at launch. So this is going to be some of the issues that they're going to be dealing with while they try to figure out, okay, now we need to have a dedicated WoW Classic team as well as this.
Yeah, I thought they were going to have a dedicated Classic team, but maybe they broke off some of the
they broke them off.
Team.
They broke them off from the WoW team.
Yeah, so technically they had 2 different teams, but they sacrificed some from one to the other, and they can't just hire more people right away and fix that.
Not yet, no. But yeah, let's go ahead and get off WoW Classic. If you guys want to enjoy it, you're more than welcome to. I may make some funny videos eventually at some point just showcasing how bad things were.
Sweet.
But this is why in a lot of cases I love WoW as much as I do, because it's a learning experience as we continue to get better over time and we get to see a lot of the problems that get fixed over that span. And I think that's a perfect leadway into Battle for Azeroth, because Battle for Azeroth has had a bit of a rocky start, but
the topic I was actually interested in an hour into the podcast.
Yes. So the WoW panel pretty much, in my opinion, saved it. Because I know a lot of people were expecting to address Azerite armor problems and everything like that, and I'm pretty sure it got addressed in the Q&A. I don't know. I've been really busy today, and I'm going to be busy tomorrow, so I'll get to it when I can. But this was basically what we predicted. It's going to be a showcase of what is to come in Battle for Azeroth. It just was not exactly what we expected. We thought that they were going to brush over Tides of Vengeance because it was coming soon. And instead, no, we got additional stuff for it. So first of all, Tides of Vengeance, which is going to have the Battle of Dazar'alor raid, as well as the new Dark Shore Warfront and all of that stuff, is going to be coming out December 11th for North America, December 12th for Europe, and December 13th for Asia. That's pretty soon.
I actually thought it'd be this month.
Well, they decided.
I expected it to be this month too, but looking at it, I'm glad they're waiting.
Yeah, that I think if they did it this month, it would be like Karazhan all over again. And that would have probably hurt them in the long run. This was probably the better idea to do. And I also like the fact that they announced that Battle of Dazar'alor is going to be implemented, I think they said just after the new year. So
yeah, so we have like 2 months until the new raid then.
So you have plenty of time to go through the 8.1 content, as well as finish up Uldir, finish up all the other stuff that you're working on, and also kind of build up the currencies that you're now going to need to get for Azerite armor, doubloons for the island expeditions, all of that stuff. So that was probably a good idea on their aspect to be able to let people finish up what they're doing, especially with the holidays literally around the corner. And then we can start the new year with a brand spanking new raid. That was probably the best thing that they could have possibly done with that. I will also say this, the unveiling of the cinematic for the Darkshore Warfront, I will never sleep the same way again, because if I have to look into those deep black eyes of Tyrande, I will get nightmares.
Oh, yeah, that cinematic was really cool, the style they did with it. Like, having it feel like a horror from the perspective of the Horde, and then having the Night Elves and Malfurion and Tyrande being the ones causing that terror, that was really different.
I love the fact that Malfurion was an absolute badass through most of it. And we got to see that bear form in all of its glory. But then they showed Tyrande, and I went, yeah.
Exactly.
Those black eyes, man.
Are they going to explain how that happened? Because because I'm just confused why she now has like demon eyes.
Yeah, so there's going to be a quest where you help her ascend into becoming the Night Warrior. And the Night Warrior is those black eyes.
Oh, I see.
And in fact, one of the things that they showed in that cinematic that I thought was really obvious to showing the change of character is Tyrande's usual trademark weapon is a bow. It was a freaking sword. So
I didn't pick up on that.
It was like a sword bow hybrid. I thought I saw a bowstring on it, but no, it was a freaking sword.
Okay, that sounds cool.
So at that point, she's got a complete change of personality.
The only thing I had a problem with the cinematic is they're trying to make me feel like Tyrande and Malfurion are the heroes, and I'm still back thinking what they did to my boy Illidan. And how I went back with his final message to them, and they're just like, no, I don't care.
To bring Brinton up to speed, what Malfurion and Tyrande did to Illidan was basically, you're not a part of the cool kids table, go do your own thing. It was like the weirdest love triangle in all of Warcraft, because both Malfurion and Illidan, brothers by the way,
right,
pined over Tyrande, and I would actually say that Illidan was probably a little bit more obsessive about it than Malfurion was. But yeah, it does kind of pay, like, when you know that history, it's hard to look at Malfurion and Tyrande as the badass heroes when you know that they've done crap like this.
Oh no, like
especially that final message after Antorus.
Yeah.
I'm ready for this Warfront, because it's like, oh, I get to kill more Night Elves. Yay!
I think the Warfront, they've learned from what they did wrong with Arathi.
Yeah.
And I'm actually excited in some degree for the Darkshore one. But the only thing I'm thinking in the back of my mind is I hope the heroic Warfront doesn't become like the heroic scenario used to.
Yeah, I'm worried about that too. I like the fact that it's going to be 10 players that you have to manually invite. It's not going to be something you can queue for. So that was a good step in that right direction, because that's pretty much what I would expect a Warfront to be, is that it's just basically another battleground where you want to be able to do a pre-made. I will say this though, great Blizzard, you've given me another place for me to be a transmog whore.
No, really though, like,
this is, I'm gonna prepare everybody right here and now. This panel pretty much showed to me that I am in fact a transmog whore.
Yeah, what about that Brawlers Guild?
We'll get there. So I mean, we have those unveils. I like the trailer for it. The other thing that you also need to know, Brinton, is like the Horde are going to get a really cool quest line that is going to take you back to Darkshore and take some of the prominent Night Elf characters and raise them as Forsaken to be replacements for Sylvanas' Dark Ranger. So you remember the Night Elf that Sylvanas was talking about in the Warbringers?
Yeah.
You resurrect her. So you resurrect her, as well as the Warden's Emissary. Whenever you turned in the Warden's Emissary quest, she's going to get resurrected too. So they have like a Dark Warden.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's going to be, I think the main reason they're doing that is because Cordana resonated so well with everybody. So they want another evil type Warden aside from the Night Elf ones. So you have all of these. I want to make sure that we could get through all of these. There's a lot of announcements, and there's plenty of stuff to go over. 815 is officially when we are going to get the Kultiran humans and the Zandalari trolls. And they swerved everybody by basically announcing that they're going to do the opposite of what they did with Blood Elves and Draenei. Well, pretty much what they did with that, as Zandalari will be able to become paladins for the Horde, and Kultiran humans will be able to become shamans for the Alliance. Jiminy fracking Christmas.
So, can we talk about Kultirans not being able to be mages?
I did find that funny. You don't want the fat jiggling while you're casting Arcane Blast? Really?
Well, like, isn't Jaina like from there, and she's a mage, so
exactly. Well, they did have to send her away, so like she probably couldn't have gotten a proper education from it. Or either that, or they could have made her a Tide Sage. Tide Sages are pretty much the priest and mage equivalent in Kultiras.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I don't know enough about like the mage, like art of being a mage. So why can't?
No, it doesn't make sense because Tol Barad needed mages to be able to contain all the threats within it, and that was a Kultiran outpost.
Yeah, so
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I feel like there's nothing like stopping humans from being mages, so why can't Kultiran people also be mages?
Yeah. But I think the biggest shock was the Zandalari Paladin and the Kultiran Shaman. Nobody expected that. Yeah. But then again, neither of them expected druids of both of those, and for the forms to be actually pretty freaking amazing, except for that fat boomkin Kultiran model. Fuck fat boomkins!
Okay, so I need to go reroll Kultiran then. Just to annoy Drac.
I love the Zandalari Boomkin model just because it shows that there's potential for us to look different than that, especially with the whole aesthetic of being a Dinomancer that works.
Oh yeah.
But I was like sitting there going, okay, Kultirans, you need to do something like the Wicker Man. Okay. There's actually a really cool quest that makes you into, or there's a buff for the Horde equivalent that makes you a Wicker Man. That should have been the Boomkin model. That should have been it. Not Fat Boomkin. Why? We already have that. We already have fat boomkin people, and I do not need a fur thong attached to it.
It's okay. The Kultiran humans will break out their ceremonial leather loincloths.
This is why Drac will never invite us on again.
And their grizzly jerkins.
But yeah,
I'm about to say something that's gonna become another T-shirt. So
it's all right. Go.
No, I'm refraining.
I want to hear it now.
It's probably something along the lines of Boomkin Boner.
No, I didn't say it.
So so we have that, but the one thing I actually am going to point out, like you guys kind of mentioned, the Kultirans don't get mages, but look at the classes that Zandalari can be, and then look at Kultirans at what they can be. Warlocks, Warlocks makes sense. Why they can't do that, because they haven't had that level of exposure to magic to do that. I mean, obviously they had to send Jaina away, but you could have at least given them mages. You could have at least given them. I'm trying to remember. Do they get priests for it? I think they might get priests.
Let me double check.
I think they might get priests, but and then also the paladin. Not really.
Yeah, because why can't humans be paladins again?
I mean, I get the concept that you want to keep them separate. Obviously, like the High Mountain Tauren don't take every single class that the Tauren can.
Okay, the Kultirans were druids, hunters, monks, priests, rogues, shamans, and warriors.
Yeah, so like paladins, no mage. Those are a little shocking to me, because I know that the Kultirans have been part of the war effort from Warcraft 1 and 2, which means they would have had exposure to paladins. They would have had exposure to the Knights of the Silver Hand. So I don't know. I just found it a little weird that there are so many classes that a Zandalari can be, and then you look at the Kultirans and they're missing stuff that could fill them out with potential. And I'm sorry, I don't agree with the rest of the WoW community. No, Zandalari and Kultiran should not be Death Knights.
Yes, they should.
No.
Okay, I agree with you now.
All right, cool.
But we can make a case for why Dark Iron Dwarves should be able to be death
You can
knights.
make that case, and I have no problem saying that is something you can go towards.
Well, what about Zandalari being demon hunters?
No.
Okay.
I'd rather have a Shadow Hunter, honestly, not a demon.
I don't think Illidan took those Zandalari to Karabor.
No.
You didn't see that NPC in the background of the starting patch of 8.1?
Not really. But
Okay.
so we have 8.1.5, which is going to give us these races. We also have the holiday update for Children's Week, where you're going to be able to get a Zandalari Orphan as well as a Kultiran Orphan. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this for the record. Both of them scare the bejeebers out of me.
I thought the little child Zandalari was kind of cute.
Kind of, but I'm more worried that he's going to have a ritualistic dagger in his hand and he's going to carve my heart out.
You have to worry about that with all children, though.
Kind of, but then I also have to worry about the little fire starter that is the Kultiran Orphan. Jiminy Christmas, she's like out of the Omen. So, gave me the willies. But you do have that as an added holiday. They did also say that they're going to be adding some more micro holidays into there, like the Wanderers Festival, being able to go back to Krasarang Wilds, and anything that involves Pandaria, I am definitely going to go do, because I am just that much of a Pandaren fan and masochist and all of the other words that people want to use to describe
down.
Slow down. But we also are going to get the Darkmoon Faire update, which is going to add the Grivern to it. So basically the Darkmoon Faire has a roller coaster now.
Did they really go into anything about like what it'll do?
No.
Yeah,
I was wondering that too. Okay.
They did not. It was pretty unbecoming. So at that point, like Andrea was, my wife Andrea was excited because she loves the Darkmoon Faire and loves doing all things with it. But for me, it was just okay. Well, I don't do anything with the Darkmoon Faire.
I ride the roller coaster, or I ride the Merry Your Ground to get an experience buff when I'm leveling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
I did stuff just to get the like little party hat, so I could reach Exalted with the Honor Bound quicker.
Pretty much.
I should get one of those hats.
The other thing that we actually forgot to point out for 8.1, or at least 8.1.5, is going to be the first round of heritage armor that is going to be going to the original races, or the non-allied races, and it's going to be the Blood Elves and the Dwarves, which we've already seen models for, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm going to do the quest. But then again,
both of them look amazing.
Yeah. But then again, I'm a transmog whore.
I mainly play Blood Elves, so actually I'm not playing any Blood Elves this expansion, but still, before that, now that with my default race, I'm definitely going to do that one.
Pretty much. So, Brenton, any thoughts on that one? Like, are you going to go and get the heritage armor sets for Blood Elves and Dwarves?
Well, I'm not like at all exalted or close to being exalted with either one of those like racial cities.
I'm not even sure.
I think you just need to be a max level of that race.
I'm not even sure that's the case now either. They really need to clarify that, because either it needs to be like you're exalted with Silvermoon City or something like that, or if you have to have a 120 Blood Elf, they have not clarified on how that's going to work.
Either way, I don't have any of those like requirements like done. And like heritage armor sounds cool, but I'm not at all like super attracted to it.
Yeah. Okay. So the other holiday that also got announced, or the micro holiday, is Free T-shirt Day is coming to WoW. So we can all get a free T-shirt on that day. Not exactly all that exciting. But the next major announcement was they are officially in, I believe it's 8.1.5, going to introduce Warlords of Draenor Time Walking. So this will include Auchendoon, Bloodmaw Slag Mines, Shadowmoon Burial Ground, Skyreach, Iron Docks, and the Everbloom. So, hey, all those fans of Grimrail Depot, sucks to be you!
I'm actually glad Grimrail's not on there, because you're not going to have a hunter sitting there barraging the entire train.
I'm right there with you. I don't hate Grimrail as much as I know a few other people in my guild do, but I'm kind of glad that didn't get implemented here, because time walking is supposed to be an experience to give people a feel for how that expansion was, and Grimrail was a hardcore feel to it. Like, you had to know what was going on in Warlords of Draenor to be able to do well in that, especially like Mythic.
Yeah, I remember there were like some of the casters that would like knock you out in one hit or come close to it if they got a cast off.
Oh god, Grimrail was one of the worst challenge modes too.
It also was, yeah.
Oh.
So the ones that they picked, I actually think are a better flavor for how this expansion kind of played out. So at that point, Akendude makes a lot of sense. The only one that if you were gonna sub out Grimrail for it, would probably be Bloodmaw Slag Mines, and that's just because Bloodmaw is just another kind of cavey area. So at that point, if you wanted to replace it with the train, you're more than welcome to.
It's okay. We get to see Croman die again.
Oh, yes.
I wonder if that's actually going to be connected.
I hope so.
We're going to be able to still get those followers. And then I get to have that wrecked for me. So we also are going to get 2 new mounts with that. We're also going to get a fiery warg mount and a fiery mammoth mount. I'm fine with that. I actually think it's a better idea to have 2 mounts instead of just 1.
They're very warlordsy.
They are very. They are not, because they haven't got enough metal on them yet. But the other big announcement that I cried at, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm guessing you did too: portal rooms coming to Orgrimmar and Stormwind.
Yay!
I like how when they announced that, they're like, "Do you know where the Ashran portal is in Stormwind?" No, you don't.
There is one?
Yes. Yeah, it's in the keep.
Yes.
Is Drac okay?
Sorry about that.
Drac is okay.
Okay.
He's trying to find the Ashran portal in Stormwind.
I'm exactly trying to find the Ashran portal in Stormwind.
And so you grab the nearest pillow.
I did, in fact. No, this is just something I've been begging for years. And I actually got mad at them in Cataclysm when they said, no, there will not be a portal hub, except there was a portal hub to all the Cataclysm zones. And it's just like, this is something that you should definitely have at some point. So I'm glad that and they even said that these rooms would be expandable. So at that point, if they wanted to add more, they could. And that's a good idea, in my opinion. But yeah, portal rooms, and also professions are going to be getting what they are calling the Tools of the Trade quest lines, which is going to give unique items to every profession wielder. And a couple of examples that we got was like blacksmiths will be able to repair 1 piece of gear each hour, as well as when you make a weapon or piece of armor for somebody, it has a chance to have the indestructible talent to it, which, if you don't know what that is, it basically means you never have to repair that piece of armor ever again. So that's amazing. The one that caught everybody's eye was the inscription, which is being able to have a pen where you can create blood contracts.
I personally liked the jewel crafting one where you can just pry a gem out of the gear. I like that too.
Oh,
I thought that was pretty cool. Remove it, and also being able to create your own little geodes.
Mm-hmm.
That was very awesome too. So I look forward to all of the. I especially want to see the engineering one, because it's not very well explained what it does. The Brawlers Guild, as you guys mentioned before, is getting a whole new storyline, basically a whodunit, and a transmog set. So I'll be doing it because I'm a transmog whore.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried the Brawlers Guild a couple times, and it's been fun just doing different types of bosses.
I'm more excited for that Bruce mount.
I want that too. I like the fact that they said it was Bruce. I'm like, good eye, Bruce. I gotta have that now.
That was like the same reaction that my husband and I had.
Good night, Bruce. So I'll admit I'm gonna get the transmog set because I need a transmog set for my monk. Seriously, I do. Because I either need to get up off my butt and actually go and do Mists of Pandaria to get some of those tiers, or something needs to happen to that extent. The other thing they also announced with 815 is the remastering of Arathi Basin and Warsong Gulch. In other words, 2 battlegrounds I never want to see ever again.
But now you might want to see them once to see what they look like now.
I think Preach said it best. They are the deconstruction of organized raiding on speed.
I like it.
I think that's the best way to be able to look at it. But yeah, no, they look good. I'm not saying that they don't. I've done Arathi Basin and Warsong Gulch so many times. I'm not interested.
I have the Master of Warsong Gulch. I have the Justicar. I just need to go back into Arathi Basin a few more times to get Master of Arathi Basin, and I'm done.
You are braver than I, Art. And then 825 was the kind of the subtle nodding of stuff that we're going to be able to see in it, because we got to see that they are finally going to add in updated models for the goblins and the worgen. And the female worgen still looks creepy.
Female goblin at least looks good.
The worgens are just like furry fan service, pretty much.
But you're not wrong.
I know I'm not wrong.
I still want Pulpera for the furry fan service, though.
But I play a worgen.
We understand.
Go cry back to Shadowfang Keep.
That may be a part of our friendship that is not salvageable.
This is going to come up at the next Devil May Cry. Is like, I love you and all, man, but I cannot acknowledge you being a furry. I'm sorry.
Nope, I can't.
It's okay. Drac has someone who would still care about him, probably.
Yeah, probably.
There was people who took stills from the Sylvanas Warbringers video, and it they made it into this little comic meme, and pretty much it was like, oh man, I can't remember what the first panel was, but it was the night elf that was like, there are still furries in the tree, and then Sylvanas is like, burn it, and I'm like, yes.
Now all of her actions make sense.
They in fact do. I can't necessarily deny that.
Yeah, no offense to any furries in the chat.
Offense to all the furries in the chat.
So then we got into the meat of the panel that excited so many people. It basically, like I told Brinton before we even did this panel, if I hadn't bought Battle for Azeroth, which believe it or not, I actually did consider not buying it because I was not interested in a red versus blue expansion, this would have made me put down the money in a heartbeat, as in patch 8.2, it is announced we will be going to Najatar. I'm so excited! I'm so excited! We get to go to Najatar! Have I freaked everybody out?
A little bit.
I could have sworn you were 4 years old.
I like going to new zones. I think it's like something cool that can be done in an MMO, because obviously Drac knows, but you guys don't, or maybe you do, but I also really like playing Final Fantasy XIV. And so far with the expansions that I have played through, which so far is really just Heaven's Word and Stormblood, everything is just kind of like up front. And so I like that with WoW's content patches, it's like, oh, you can go to an entirely new place that we've been developing. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I kind of like that. And it's something that I would like to see Final Fantasy XIV do. Instead of, oh, this is something that we've been developing during the course of the last expansion, because it took us 2 years to do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know the model of FF14, but they make you pay for Heaven's Word and Stormblood, didn't they? They make you pay for the content updates in some way.
Oh no, you just buy the expansion and then all the content updates are just free.
Okay, cool. Because I didn't know they actually adopted the WoW model. But yeah, that's the other thing too, is like you're getting a whole new continent to be able to go look into, and it's free.
And I love exploration, like stuff like that. When they announced that, and then additionally like the Mechagon, is that how it's pronounced as well? Like two whole new zones. I was like, yay, more exploration, because I love doing shit like that.
Yeah, I think the Mechagon was. So I was going to say, I think Mechagon is what really surprised me, because like the Ashara, the Naga, we kind of first saw that one coming. We talked about that last week.
Yeah, we did.
The Mechagon was like, oh, here's an entirely new zone, a mini raids like Karazhan. That was just like something completely new. Yeah,
it was a left hook even from the other prominent YouTubers that were making their predictions. Nobody expected that was going to be an official thing. So that was actually really surprising to be able to go and see. But yeah, so we had Najatar, which is going to be basically, so the patch is going to be called Rise of Ashara. we are going to have kind of an Isle of Thunder-esque experience or a Argus experience where we make our way onto Nachatar. The Horde will interact with basically former slaves of the Naga, whether they be Giblin, whether they be Sea Giants, whether they be Makura. And then the other thing that I found interesting is, and this is why I play Alliance, my friends, we get a whole experience with a race that has been brought to near extinction by the Naga called the Oncoans. And they look like they've had a lot of effort done to them. Almost like we have a gap for that allied race that we've been talking about.
We might just save their species and their descendants might join us.
Funniest thing about that.
Or what could happen is the Horde just wipes them all out because they're evil.
Yeah, that too. That's entire like Sylvanas.
I like that one.
Sylvanas just looks at them and goes, "Kill them."
Yeah.
No,
I
burn them.
I tell Brenton's a Horde player.
Brenton is a very dedicated Horde player.
I am a very proud Horde player. Like throughout all of Battle for Azeroth pre-patch events, I was just living it up.
Oh yeah, like we had like these mock arguments in messages between each other, just like because I played the Anduin side, even though I was very interested in the Sylvanas side too. So just like I am pro Sylvanas, and at that point, I remember even sending you the Jaina meme that was going around, the Let It Go meme.
That was a pretty good meme.
Yeah.
If we take into account what they said last BlizzCon, if that still rings true, that Azshara is not the final boss of the expansion, we can still expect an 8.3 probably with another tier of content. So when looking at 8.2, I'm really surprised because you think back on 5.2, 6.2, 7.2, you got one zone.
Yep.
Now you're getting, in the middle of an expansion, you're getting a zone like Argus. And you're getting that Broken Shore.
Yeah, pretty much.
Together.
Pretty much. So, I mean, this actually lends itself to a ton of potential. Najatar can be that Broken Shore equivalent where it's just, you've got the world quests there and you're able to kind of help out with the effort there. But then also as a side project, because we did get this confirmed that the war campaign for 8.1 and I think into 8.2 is going to focus more on Mechatork as well as Gallywix, which would make sense for Mechagon.
Yeah.
Right, so it could be like you have the main plot of BFA going to the Naga, but then the war campaign going toward the Mecha, whatever that place is called.
We also have
Mechagon,
that hidden vault that they mentioned.
They're going to open up the hidden vault in Tiragard Sound. That's actually how it starts. It's like you're supposed to find a transponder of some kind, and that gets you to Mechagon. So I like that whole concept. The other thing I want to point out really quick, though, while we're talking about Mechagon, and it is awesome, one of the things that caught a lot of people by surprise with Najatar is new Naga models. And we get to see one of them where it's kind of a crustacean-looking one. I wonder if Blizzard's going to use this as some kind of an interesting advantage, especially with the announcement of a Naga hatchery of maybe Naga with legs. So you can finally shut the fans up and give them the neutral Naga race that they wanted so long. I don't think the Oncoans is the answer to that. I think they'll be their own thing. But it does intrigue me that you now have these new Naga models that are supposed to be the elite models, and they are not the same thing we've seen throughout our questing through various expansions. They are very different.
The only crustacean I'm concerned with is that sideways walking crab.
Oh my gosh.
That's going to be such a fun mount.
I was almost surprised. And I think there's going to be a variant at some point where they're going to make a giant crab mount. It's going to have a ginormous hammer in it, and it's going to be called Ghost Crawler.
That would be great.
They should make that one of the bosses either in the Brawlers Guild or in the new raid.
Well, he's a Cataclysm rare. You can kill Ghost Crawler.
Yeah. I was just thinking...
How are you liking it over at Riot? Did you get your moose mount?
We actually get moose mount in the Legion, was it?
He left in...
No, when we got the moose mount.
Oh, the Moose Mount? No, yeah, it was
WoD.
the opening of Legion. Because you had to turn the quest in from
Archimon. Okay, Draenor then. Okay,
so it was opening up into Legion. And I should mention this, otherwise my wife will literally kill me. Dat Naga Battle Pet
with the mini fork.
It's cute. I can't deny that. I don't battle pet though. But there you go. Anyway, I mentioned it, honey. Moving on.
Okay, Drac won't die tonight. That's good.
No, he will not. And not by his kids, of all things. We also got the announcement of the raid, which is Azshara's Eternal Palace, which is going to be right in the center zone. Having 8 bosses. There is going to be a Naga hatchery to be able to showcase why we have so many Naga going around. The thing that kind of threw everybody off in the panel, and I'm curious as to you guys' reaction, was the announcement of an underwater boss. There is going to be one of those 8 bosses that is based underwater and probably will have underwater mechanics. If I were to take a guess, I would guess it's probably like Ozumat or some kind of giant squid. But yeah, they're going to do that. And we also know that the ending boss obviously is Queen Azshara. So I'm excited for that. But I also want to get into the meat of this, which is Mechagon. Mechagon was not expected unless you were a diehard theory nut and wanted it. Okay, I know a lot of people were suspecting that the final allied race was going to be Junker Gnomes and Overgoblins because we have to have mechanical druids kind of thing on both sides. Mechagon has been announced. It is good, and I love the fact that it got classified as a mega dungeon. Right.
Yeah, so it's like Karazhan or the equivalent.
It's good that you brought that up because the example was Karazhan and Legion. Now, people might remember when Karazhan launched initially, it had a lot of problems, but it was boasting a lot of really cool aesthetics. One in particular was a 5-man dungeon with a week-long lockout, or at least 3 or 4 day lockout. So you could technically treat it as a 5-man raid. And that's pretty much what's being implemented here in Mechagon. It's going to be an 8-boss raid. I have a feeling that when we get further down, it's going to get cut in half, and you can do it heroic. You can do it however you want to. But its initial launch is going to be Mythic only, and it's going to be in a longer format. And I find it interesting that they called it a mega dungeon. They actually classified it, which tells me that Blizzard is looking to do more of these. And my assessment of that is, please give me more.
Yeah, I think that's good because, like, for 5-man content, you have the mythic keystones, but they're very much a time based. Do this as quickly as you can. Well, the raid the focus is more just defeating the boss and not so much trying to like rush through it. So I think it's good that they're giving the 5-man groups this type of content.
I like the idea of it.
The way I see it is I look back at old dungeons, like, let's say, Maradon, Blackrock, Scarlet Monastery.
Which would be the mega dungeons of yesteryear.
Of old. Yeah. Now, let's imagine Scarlet Monastery in particular, I want to point out, because now it's 2 dungeons, used to be 4. What if they go back and just make it 1 big dungeon?
That would be awesome, and I would love that.
Maybe they could do something like that with the time walking, too.
They could.
Like I'd have no time walking could be a thing because eventually they're just gonna.
I'd like to point out for the record, vanilla time walking has not happened.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the dungeons might not make a good transition to time walking, but like the mega dungeons, that might be something unique they can do with the vanilla ones.
I mean, for crying out loud! So you mentioned Scarlet Monastery, Stratholme counts as that. Dire Maul counts as that. Maradon counts as it. There technically is a 10-man raid that could be moved down to a 5-man raid in Ruins of Ahn'Qiraj. You could technically do that and be able to showcase a lot of that content. It is technically possible to be able to do this as well as make newer, bigger dungeons for people to be able to enjoy as raid content, but they can't get an extra 5 people.
Right.
That's and also the other one that we failed to mention, which I think is a big inspiration for Mechagon, Gnomuragon. I could not help but wonder at all of the screenshots that they tried to show the specific rooms. It looks a lot like an updated Gnomuragon. So at that point, we can get the fans off our back and say, like, we have done a remastered Gnomuragon for you. I think that was actually a really great idea. We also are going to get the introduction of the Junker Gnomes, which is just another race for us to be able to interact with that are trying to get out of the King Mechagon society and be able to maintain some of their humanity, nomanity, whatever you want to call it. So they'll also be announced. But yeah, that was actually a big swerve. A lot of people were shocked by the Mechagon announcement. I look forward to it, just because it's going to be 5-man raid content that I can do with friends, like some of the people I have on this panel.
Unfortunately, half of us play Horde, half of us play Alliance, so
I'd play it both ways.
I'm leveling a Horde tune, so I'll have a Prot Warrior on both sides.
I'm eventually going to level on Alliance. And
yeah, he's got an Alliance tune, so
okay.
He could do it. The other thing that we should also point out that a lot of theory crafters found very interesting was, and I'm going to go ahead and put this up on screen share so you guys can see it, because a lot of people did not notice this right off the bat.
Oh, is this what I think? The Zalatoth? Yeah.
So it just so happens that they said the story will continue in 8.2, and they put up this slide of Anduin, Jaina, Varrock Sourfang, and Sylvanas holding a very familiar priest weapon. And that's already got the rumor mill a-flowing, as she is holding Zalatoth, the blade of the Black Empire. And so a lot of people have now speculated that the model that we have for Zalatoth in game files might be associated with Sylvanas now. She might be a silent advisor for Sylvanas. That's why Sylvanas is doing all of the chaotic things she is doing.
Well, at least up to this point, I don't think the weapon could communicate with her since it's been dormant, but there's definitely something going on.
But in the 8.1 quest, it becomes active again.
Right. So up until 8.1, it hadn't been active. So Sylvanas was not acting based off the guidance of the dagger, unless there's something else going on that was linking them.
Yeah. And we don't know.
Maybe somehow the Azerite that Sylvanas got tied into that. I don't know. I'm making stuff up.
We're not even sure. That's the interesting part about this, and it's already got people talking. Brinton, what did you think of the Shadow Priest artifact making its way into the hands of the Dark Lady?
Well, to be completely honest, I didn't even recognize it at all until you just barely made mention of it right now. So it opens up a lot of questions, and it is extremely interesting because I feel like even with the cinematic that we saw, there's a lot of questions even to be had there, because obviously that the time frame of that cinematic takes place before it takes place after the battle for Lordaeron and right before BFA actually starts. But for those who played Horde at when the expansion dropped, Saurfang was still sitting in his cell.
Yeah, because when we went to go rescue him, he wouldn't come with us. Yeah,
even though Anduin pretty much left the gate open. It's you're free to go.
Well, the other thing that I wanted to ask you in particular with Zalatoth is, did you know the 8.1 quest that's going to be implemented?
I've been seeing stuff like that. I've been seeing a lot of spoilers of that story pop up on Wowhead, but I've just been leaving it alone because I just want to be be a part of it when it comes out. As in, I don't want to know I just don't want to know what happens now. Because
it looks like Zalatoth is going to have a very prime lore seat in the story from here on in. And I find it very interesting that they put her in the hands of Sylvanas. It explains a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely where they're going.
Go ahead.
Well, with the cinematic, my understanding was the timeline was that the Saurfang is captured, then we go to rescue him, he doesn't come with us, and then after that is when the cutscene or the cinematic with the Anduin. Though I don't know if it was ever said for sure how that worked.
No, so you're talking about the
Lost Honor.
Lost Honor.
Yeah.
So the time frame of it is that Anduin just barely returned home from Lordaeron. And then he had the discussion with Varrock and decided to let him loose, which is what I kind of expected him to do. And probably to send him off into retirement, which is kind of what is happening. He's going out to the Swamp of Sorrows. At that point, news is going to reach Sylvanas that he might be free and he's not coming back. And so you then have to you are tasked with finding him and either bringing him back or killing him. And the interesting part I find is that Horde players will get to choose. you can choose to actually you can choose to not necessarily kill him. I don't think you can kill him, but you can choose whether or not to tell Sylvanas he's alive.
Ooh, I don't like that. I'm already very conflicted.
I think that's what makes it interesting, though.
I think that actually does make it very intriguing. It's kind of got a similar Vol'jin vibe to it.
My biggest problem with this whole scenario, especially with what Saurfang said in Lost Honor about how it's not my horde. This feels very Garashi.
It does. I'm not gonna lie there. It does.
I don't want this to end up as Garrosh 2.0. I want them to go in a different direction with Sylvanas.
Yeah, one thing I saw related to that is whether similar it might be like with Garrosh, he's trying to make the horde how he thought it should be, while Sylvanas has like intentions outside of the horde, which he's after, and the horde is more just like a means to an end for her.
Yeah, you also have to take the characters into consideration. Like, Sylvanas never wanted to be war chief. She was more than content to be the leader of the Undercity and to plot from the back curtain, so to speak. Varrock also was kind of that way. He never had aspirations to be the leader of the Horde. He just wanted to be the old soldier and to tell things from his perspective. And so in a lot of cases, I've speculated with a bunch of people thinking, like, is Varrock going to be the next war chief? Because it looks like we are going to kill Sylvanas. And I don't think so. And the main reason I still don't think so, even after the Lost Honor cinematic, is I don't think he'll accept.
Yeah, I think he might like aid in a rebellion to put someone else. And then you also have what happened during the Q&A with Chris Metzen, which is hinting that Thrall might be coming back.
I've heard that. I don't know if I necessarily buy it, but
I would
it's
put my money on Bane Bloodhoof.
Bane, I could definitely see.
But yeah, that kind of leads into what I was saying. I honestly see Varrock refusing the mantle and then going off into retirement, basically saying, my war is over. I'm going to the Grand.
He's reestablished the Horde how he wants. Now he'll let the new person take over.
And then at that point, he would establish who he thinks is the true successor of the Horde, which would be Bane Bloodhoof, and probably the way that things should go, especially if you're going to try and go for a more peaceful interaction. And considering what I'm speculating is going to be the next major expansion villain, you're going to need peace. So,
especially since the Tauren are getting heritage armor.
Yes, so that's the other another big 8.2 announcement is that the Tauren and the Gnomes are next in the heritage armor selection. I will just be honest, I love both of them. I'm not a big Gnome fan, but I want that. I also looked at the Tauren outfit and said I could totally see either Bane or Cairn wearing that, and I now want a Tauren to be able to wear that. I'm totally on board with that. But again, I am a transmog whore.
So drive transmog, he'll go get it.
Pretty much. And unfortunately, we're kind of running out of time here, but I do want to kind of go over the remaining stuff that we have. Flying is also going to be unlocked in patch 8.2, so you're going to get the second part of the Battle for Azeroth Pathfinder, so we can finally get flying in both Kul Tiras and Zandalar. We've also heard speculation that they might be looking to announce very soon a patch to be able to allow flying in Silvermoon as well as in Bloodmist and Azure Mist Isle. I don't know if I necessarily buy these, but it would be a fix that has been sorely needed for years. Because if people don't already know this, if you go to the Blood Elf or the Draenei starting zones, you cannot fly there because it's Burning Crusade code. So if they do that, that would be awesome. But yeah, we're going to get BFA Pathfinder so we can finally start flying to all of our various world quest zones to go and save all of those 7.6 million bajillion turtles that made it to the water.
Turtle made it to the water, though.
Somebody actually told me I need to go watch the WoW voice actors panel because they actually got the voice actress of the Tortolan who says that to say it again.
Scroll Sage Nola.
Scroll Sage Nola. A turtle made it to the water.
My poor brain has been so, like, her name is just imprinted on my brain for all eternity.
And my usual response in my office chair is, shut up! I'm trying to focus here!
It's no comparison though to get in the vat and jump on the fruit.
Oh yes,
yeah,
like 5 times in a row.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
that was pretty much the WoW What's Next panel, except we also got a hinting, almost like we did last time, or in 2016, as a certain fish ended up on the screen with a red eye. So I think we also got a... Totally. It's totally Cthulhu. We're going back to Encourage. No,
I guess I knew it all along.
I think 8.3 is confirmed. It's going to be N'Zoth. Are we going to Ny'alotha? I'm not sure, but it's N'Zoth.
Yeah, that's not much of a surprise, but yeah, that's to be an interesting place for the story to go.
Yep.
I'm also wondering if they'll continue the war campaign in like another unexpected direction, while like the main story is going after N'Zoth and the old gods. What will
I'm
they
also
do with,
interested.
like,
Yeah, I'm also very interested in that, like having some kind of a secret piece established so that we can take care of the old gods, because we as factions, we both know that they are a threat. I think that would be the best way to go about it. The one thing I also was kind of surprised didn't show up, because we had new island expositions, we had a bunch of other things happen, but after the Darkshore Warfront, there was not an 8.2 Warfront. And it makes you kind of wonder, after Darkshore and Arathi, where can they go?
Pandaria.
To put one in. Totally. They need to go back to Pandaria, because nobody...
Bring the Shah back.
Bring the Shah back. Exactly. Yashiraj needs to make a resurgence. I thought Gilneas, maybe. Like, they finally launched the campaign to retake Gilneas. But
I can see that.
I don't know if that's... Because, see, the problem here is that would be a Worgen and Forsaken kind of Warfront, and Darkshore is already giving us Forsaken themed armor. Right. So I don't know how they're going to make that work. Who are they going to pair up the Worgen against for that?
They could work it around maybe the Blood Elves, since they're not that far.
Probably.
Yeah, if they're doing the Blood Elf heritage armor, that shows that they might be like pushing the Blood Elf story forward in some way. So maybe there'd be a conflict there.
It could be. I mean, you could also make a justification like goblins go up against the Worgen because they were both from Cataclysm. Gilneas is one of the ideas that I think is possible that they could do. I also have heard rumors and rumblings of the Battle for the Barrens, which is just basically now in Cataclysm, where the Horde holds the Northern Barrens and the Alliance pretty much in some ways kind of have outposts in the Southern Barrens. You now have like this big old battlefield in the Barrens to be able to go fight it out. I kind of hope that isn't true, because we've already had so much stuff happen in the Barrens that I kind of don't want to go back. Also,
just go
Barrens
back to
chat.
Tolbarad.
Yeah, there you go. Or the other one that I heard that I would be willing to accept is a Warfront based in Borealis, because we're already getting Dazar lore as a raid, but basically say like we have a retaliatory Warfront where the Forsaken try to take out Borealis.
We also have the faction assaults coming, though.
The incursions. Yeah.
The incursions, assaults, however they want to call it. Basically the replacement for Legion assaults in Legion. You now basically have the Horde or your opposing faction coming in and trying to take Tiergard Sound or Zuldasar, and you claim it back the same way you would with a Legion assault.
Right.
So there's plenty of stuff to be able to go over there and plenty of stuff to speculate, but I did find it interesting that 8.2 and from what I can tell 8.3, they don't have war fronts. So either those war fronts are still very much in development or there aren't any.
There might be for 8.3 because they haven't announced anything with 8.3. So I would not say them not announcing it is indicating there isn't one. Yeah.
It's a difficult thing to be able to figure out. The other one that I heard was that was viable was Mechagon. But now that we have that mega dungeon, I don't think that's possible. Although you could technically do it where you have an alliance and a horde outpost on the beaches of Mechagon and you just try to take it. It's a harder thing to justify, but it's possible. So definitely a lot of stuff to be able to take in here, but that was pretty much BlizzCon in a nutshell. Overall final thoughts, guys. What did you think of BlizzCon 2018? Was it good enough? Was it bad enough? Did it sell you? Did it not? Brinton, where are you at with it?
I feel like we have a lot to look forward to going into the next year. Right. Like absolutely 100%. So I look forward to seeing I look forward to seeing what is to come. I can't wait to get my hands on some of the content that has been revealed, and just continue to look forward to seeing what they will continue to produce as we head into 2019.
I agree. Rising Sun reviews. Was it a bust? Was it worth it?
Well, the only thing that really impressed me was like the gnome part of the Battle for Azeroth 8.2, because everything else I kind of saw coming, or it was for a game I'm not overly interested in. But definitely just seeing like the speculation with the lore going on with 8.2 and the further than that is getting me interested in wanting to play that and see what happens. So that's good. I haven't been as...
and that's a big statement to say, because in our interactions, you admitted you were kind of getting bored with it.
Yeah, I have been getting bored of WoW, just not enjoying it as much. But like seeing this has made me like, okay, I want to go play that now. So
yeah, I completely agree with you 100%.
Yeah, because you were kind of in that point too.
Yeah, and like and then after like all the content reveal for like a good, I would say a good like next 6 to 7 months of like content that we're going to be getting, I tried to reevaluate, where were these feelings coming from, and that's like a whole nother story that doesn't need to be talked about. But yep. I mean, I started to reevaluate why I was thinking that. So
yeah, okay. I think for me, I'm kind of glad we're not getting like the 8.1 or the raid for a couple more months. That way I can like spend some time not playing WoW, so when I do get back to it, I can enjoy it more.
Well, the patch comes out the week of my finals. So it's not.
I was wondering about that.
So it's nice to know that I don't have to prepare for a brand new raid and take finals.
Okay, so yeah, finish your finals, then go play WoW on your break.
Well, actually, no, he can't take a break, because him and me need to finally do them mythics that we've been talking about.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You just have so much stuff on your plate.
Well, I am. Well, I mean, I also recently just brought home a 13-year-old from Colorado I'm adopting, so that's been taking up a lot of my time too.
Oh, yeah, that would do it.
Yeah.
So you're pretty busy.
Yes.
Art of Anime, what overall, was it a bust? Was it worth it? Where are you sitting at it?
So I think overall, no matter what you play, you have something to look forward to next year. Yeah. Now, if you're a StarCraft or Diablo fan, we can talk about that later.
Depending on your interpretation.
Yes.
But I think most of everybody at Blizzard should be satisfied with what they got. Like, we got what we expected. Nothing really got entirely really shafted at the event. Sure, certain things could have had a little bit more done with them.
Sure.
But I think Warcraft definitely took the spotlight because there was just so much to talk about. But down the road, after Classics out, after they do whatever expansion comes out next, BlizzCon for WoW is just going to be patches for the most part. Then something else, maybe Overwatch is going to take the big stage. Each year, I feel something else takes the stage.
Yeah.
Right, like the year Overwatch came out, it was Overwatch that took the stage.
Right.
It pretty much was. I'm actually trying to remember what the 2017 WoW What's Next panel was. Was it? I think it was strictly Battle for Azeroth, wasn't it?
I think it was BFA.
Yeah. So at that point, like, they didn't even do a highlight on 7.3. They just announced it and got it out there as quick as they possibly could.
Well, yeah, I think the 7.3 was announced several months prior, though.
Yeah, it was the year that
it was the year that 2016,
Yeah, because they talked about, because 7.1 was already released by the time BlizzCon before BlizzCon had started. So when we went, that was the year I went to BlizzCon, and we went, and my husband, well, at the time, my boyfriend and I went to the What's Next panel for World of Warcraft, and pretty much they talked about everything coming in 7.2, and then they said 7.3 is Argus. And then the following years when they did Battle for Azeroth.
Yeah, actually, the BlizzCon 2016, they very briefly at the end mentioned Argus 7.3, but no details. And then several months later, they gave us a dump of the details.
They didn't give you anything. They just showed the horizon of a planet, and everybody immediately assumed Argus. So at that point, that was actually a really good reveal for them to do. And
right, they're very just they said like one thing basically. It's like Argus hinting, walk off the stage, let people speculate.
Pretty much. And then at that point we got, could Ilaria be there? Could Turalian be there? And actually having like a lot of that speculation happen. So this was actually a worthwhile thing to do, especially with the ending where they cut off at N'Zoth and just said, okay, can we get Ny'alotha? Are we going to get it? Are we going to just get a separate raid that is going to be different than what we think? The speculation's a bleed, and that's amazing.
They're basically saying the story does not end with 8.2. So
no, and right. I've even heard talk or in the grapevine that it doesn't end at 8.3 either. There might actually be additional stuff.
I wonder,
even if they go to 8.3, we're looking at an expansion that has the most raid content since probably Wrath of the Lich King.
Legion would be that, yeah. Legion and then Battle for Azeroth.
Yeah, because Legion had Emerald Nightmare, it had Trial of Valor, then it had
Emerald Nightmare, Trial of Valor, Nighthold, Tomb of Sargeras, and Taurus.
Yeah.
And so Wrath had Naxxramas, Obsidian Sanctum, Vault of Archivon, Ulduar, Trial of
Eternity,
Trial of the Crusader, Eye of Eternity, and Ice Crown. So that's 7.
Right.
And then we're on track here. Uldir, Dazar'alor, Eternal Palace. Whenever Crucible of Storms.
Which they haven't mentioned that'll be 7.1.5-ish.
Or 8.15, I think, is what they're speculating.
8. Yeah. And then whatever the 8.3 rate is, that's already 5. If it goes beyond that.
Yeah, so it'll be close to Legion, I think, in total amount of raid stuff.
And I'd also like to point out, this is also another really cool thing is that ever since Legion, the question since you guys came in at Cataclysm is like, how many 5-mans do I have to pay for my good raid? Got brought up, and Legion gave you not only Tomb of Sargeras, but it gave you Cathedral of Eternal Night, and then it gave you Antorus along with Seat of the Triumvirate. Whether you like those dungeons or not, that was actually a good idea, catering to the 5-man people as well as to the raiders.
Well, they also had Karazhan too, which ended up becoming 2 5-man dungeons in the end.
And that was after 2 expansions of not doing that.
Right.
Pretty much, yeah. And so at that point, I love the fact that they did that, where in 8.2, you're going to get Ashara's Eternal Palace, but then you're also going to get Mechagon. So at that point, I like the idea of being able to swap out dungeon and raid and being able to do at least one of each. Do they have to be associated with each other? Maybe not. And that's what gets me excited is like, you're going to get 5-man content as well as raiding content. It's all going to be awesome. And it's all going to be paced out the way that it needs to be to get everybody excited about it.
And it lets them tell multiple stories at the same time instead of like a lot of the times expansions start off, they have like a lot of disconnected stories, so then they all converge into a single point at the end. Here they're able to like do a couple of branching stories, and then maybe at the end, like in 8.3 or 8.4, they will tie together.
Not to mention on top
or they branch it again.
PvPers are getting that Mechagon Arena too.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that one.
They're getting
I forgot about that.
They
had a lot of information at this. I feel like there was a lot more information at this panel for what's coming with Battle for Azeroth than there was with Legion.
Oh, dude, sure. That wasn't it. I mean, Island Expeditions, for if you like them or hate them, they're getting tons of stuff. 8.1 is going to have 2 new ones. One of them is Haven's Wood.
Yeah, 8.2 is getting 2 more, so that's already like 4 new islands we're getting.
Which is a bunch of different affixes.
One of them being
Crestfall, and then also
the Pandaria area,
which is the one I'm excited for, Snow Blossom.
Me too. That one looks so cute.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
They literally will sell me with anything Pandaren. I have I will never ever roll a Pandaren, but if you give me Pandaria,
if the Zandalari can become a playable race, the Mogu should be able to.
They are entirely possible. And I can already tell you guys, like, my speculation is as far as the allied races, because we talked about this last time. The speculation was that it was going to be the Volpera and the Sethrak. I think the Volpera is still there, but I think it makes more sense for them to be on the Horde side.
I agree.
At this point, I think the Oncoans are going to replace the Sethrak. They make more sense, especially if the Alliance's focused story is to help them fight back against the Naga.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that.
So it would make sense for them to be the next allied race in 8.2, 8.3, whatever it's going to be.
So I can still get a Volpera, so I'm happy.
Yeah, there you go. And I think that's going to go ahead and do it. We're actually going about 2.5 hours. So, first of all, yeah, this has been an amazing discussion, and I'm glad that we were able to end on such a high note as opposed to the low note that a lot of people are focusing on for BlizzCon 2018. But to wrap things up, if people want to be able to ask more of your opinions or be able to check out you guys' awesome content, Brinton Volley of BPV Gaming, how do people do that for you?
I can be found on Twitter at bvolley01. I say this every time. I don't bite. You can like tweet me or DM me if we follow each other. Like, I'm totally down to chit chat about anything that you may agree or disagree with what I have stated, especially with what I would consider some very strongly said things about Diablo Immortal. So
I can in fact confirm he does not bite unless you make fun of his Dark Lady.
I mean, yeah. I mean, for the horde,
yeah,
praise be to Dark Lady. I mean, like my husband said, I mean, he would go straight for Sylvanas, and I'm completely okay with that. So
I've never heard that.
That's great. Yeah, I can confirm you can't find him on Twitter because I did that and I followed him today, and he followed me back, so he seems cool.
He is in fact very cool.
I will take that compliment, even though I'm like really, really boring. Check out my YouTube. I just giggle at my own jokes.
See, at this point,
like you are right now.
If people are interested in checking out content for Brinton, the one that I would recommend, and it's an oldie but it's a goodie, is his playthrough of Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. I have enjoyed it every single time that we've tuned into it. Especially, we didn't actually tell you this, Brinton, but because we spent so many times at 3 a.m. feeding kids, we were watching very unusual Let's Plays, and we decided to pick up Minish Cap. You don't do that at 3 a.m. because weird jokes were made, and I don't think we'll ever be able to take them back.
Oh my gosh, you'll have to share this with me off screen
if we can remember.
That was my first Let's Play getting back into YouTube, and let me tell you, there were some days where I was just like, what is going on with this game and my editing and my recording, and what am I doing to myself?
I kind of want to hear what type of jokes were made now.
Go watch it. I wish I could tell you guys. I don't remember them off the top of my head. I'll have to go talk to Andrea and see if she remembers any. But all I remember is there were a couple of times where we were so tired, but yet we were laughing so hard at 6 a.m. when we should have been sleeping. And so that crap happened.
Oh, bless your soul. But anyway, that's how you can get a hold of me.
All right. Rising Sun Reviews. How do people get a hold of your content as well as check in with your opinions on things?
Well, best way to get hold of me is probably through Twitter. It will be linked in the description, I hope. If not, Drac, please put the link in the description for me.
I will definitely do that. But the one thing that I'm not going to do, my friend, is very simply, I'm staging an intervention at this point. The hentai needs to stop.
Well, you'll be glad to know I'm currently on hiatus from YouTube to work on other things which have not been announced yet.
All right, very cool. Because the hentai videos, like seeing those at the front of your video feed is like,
I've only done 2 of them. One I can blame Art for.
But the problem is that I've seen comments of people just like, can we do more, please? Can we do more? No.
Okay, so Drac wants at least 5 more hentai reviews by the end of the year.
Well, I mean, you're supposed to host the hentai live stream right after this, right?
Well, in a couple of weeks. Art said he'd be part of that one.
All right.
Who invited me on?
I just did.
Yeah, I think you just did. All right. The Art of Anime. How do people get a hold of your content?
I think you're very aware of how.
I am very aware, and it looks like you're not willing to say it. So you guys can follow him at The Art of Anime YT on Twitter, and then you can follow him literally searching for The Art of Anime. He comes up as like the second choice.
No, I tried searching for it last time and I couldn't find him.
Well, you have to put in The Art of Anime.
Okay, let's see if this works.
I'm doing it right now too. The Art of Anime.
The Art. Okay, now come on.
Mine was the first one.
There he
kitty
is.
Cat.
And speaking of hentai.
Wait, why are we speaking of hentai?
Art, you have some interesting introspective opinions into the medium. But that's not what I'm pointing out right here and now. The one I'm going to point out is, we've brought up Final Fantasy here and there, and I'm not gonna stop bringing this one up. But your video on Final Fantasy IX again just makes me want to go play the damn game.
Go play the damn game.
Actually, you want to know what you might have made me do? Go and buy it
on your phone.
No, buy it on Switch.
Oh, they have it on Switch?
It's coming to Switch.
Wait,
What
which-
game?
Final Fantasy 9.
Huh.
Oh.
I'm getting to Switch in like 2 weeks, so.
So like you can get, Brinton, you can get Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 10, I believe Final Fantasy 12, all for Switch. Very
When
soon.
is? Oh, sweet.
I
yeah.
continue to giggle at the fact that Final Fantasy 8 is not in there.
They always skip 8.
They always do.
It's because 7, 8, 9.
In fact,
Well,
it did.
Well, I mean, Final Fantasy VII is pretty good, so it was just like there can be no 8, nom nom nom, and then number 9 was really good, so 7 was just like, and you can
There are reasons that 8 gets skipped. One of these days I'll make a video on it.
I like the one that I just came up with because I just imagine Cloud consuming an entire video game world.
Thank you for that mental image.
Come here, Squall.
He just picks up Squall, Vernoa.
But
Oh,
wait,
look,
Cloud.
look at this cowboy guy.
So
Wait.
that also can become a t-shirt. That is what's going to become of my silliness.
And then Renoa pulls out the Angelo cannon, and all of a sudden it just gets eaten.
But what if
Come
she
here,
Angelo,
little doggy.
What if she Angelo cannons within Cloud's stomach?
Well, that explains the emo state in Advent Children.
He's having turmoil in his gut. Get it. Totally on board.
That's just more like, come here, Squall. I can't, man. I've got to go and engage in this relationship with Renoa, even though I totally don't want to.
I was kind of waiting for Drac to fall out of his chair there. That would have been funny.
And that's why the OVA is called On the Way to a Smile.
Wait.
All right. And if people want to be able to get a hold of me, you can do so. You're already on my YouTube channel, which is Drac2326. You can check out the game reviews that I do, as well as the Let's Play content. I'm actually getting ready to wrap things up for Final Fantasy VII. So for all the people who demanded that Brinton watch it so that he knew what was going to happen at the end, it's coming, Brinton.
Yay.
So you can check that out. And you can also check out my most recent review. I believe that went up was Kingdom Come Deliverance. I have plenty more reviews coming soon. I just need time away from the kids to be able to go and edit them. That would be the most amazing thing in the world ever. And you also can follow me on Twitter at Drac2326, where I did promptly give the Diablo team a little bit of crap. But that's only because I think they handled things fairly poorly. And we need to make it better. So I'm just going to warn Brinton in advance. That did happen.
That's fine. I guess that's one thing. I mean, if we can go back to Diablo really quick, even though we're doing like outros, et cetera, et cetera. But from what you, because I haven't watched the Diablo panel yet. So if I can make this last little thing, if they didn't handle like questions and negative feedback and like negative and like the backlash very well in the moment of their panel, that, I mean, yeah, that like, I mean, fine. Like, I can agree with that. But at the same time, I feel like people were hyping, people were hyping themselves up for something that was very clearly stated that was not going to be shown. And they still went in with high hopes. So,
I mean, all I need to do to describe it to you, Brinton, is, Alex's hatred of the J. Allen Brack quote, because you've seen it. You've seen him actually discuss it. He now doesn't hate that as much as he does. You have phones, right?
I'm probably going to. I mean, as soon as we're off air, I'm probably going to go watch the panel with Nathan. So I'll get to see it in just a moment.
These podcasts.
What was that, Rising Sun?
We need to have Alex on these podcasts. I haven't done one with him yet.
Well, I mean, he did. I think I told you guys this reaction last week where he basically was like, "You guys are doing stuff with Art of Anime and Rising Sun and Brinton, and you didn't tell me, man, Drax, thanks. I really appreciate that." I'm like, "We're talking Blizzard." He's like, "Oh, okay."
Like, get him on something that we both know, like Magical Girl anime.
Well, it just so happens we might have something on a little podcast by the name of Why We Geek very soon.
Oh, I wonder if this is like a clever foreshadowing of something that may or may not happen that I have totally not heard about before.
Or a shameless plug.
It's too bad I don't have
plug of his own content.
I mean, I am holding Xalatoth in the hand you can't see.
Oh my Lanta. I am so shook.
I'm just waiting for him to actually like pull out one that he had with him.
Oh, dude, if I could find a foam Zalatoth, I totally would. I'd be making jokes in my videos. I'm like, but they do like me on YouTube, right? They do like me.
No,
like you.
all you need is a foam Zalatoth in one hand and a phone in the other, and be like, you have phones, right?
Okay, we need to mail Drake's foam Zalatoth.
Actually, I just put them on the table and then have Zalatoth say, "You have phones, right?" All right. Well, I hate to cut this short, but I actually do have some other things I need to get done before I can go to bed tonight.
I was supposed to be watching the anime with friends at 11, and that's not happening.
Well, here's hoping I can actually make some time for My Hero Academia because I haven't cried enough this week. Thanks, Romney. We'll get to that at the Geek News podcast next week. But we want to thank you guys so much for watching this over the week as well as watching this live. We really do appreciate it. Who knows? Maybe if we can actually make this work next year, we'll try and do it again for BlizzCon 2019 if there actually is one. But also, I want to thank my panelists for being able to join in with me and just geek out about Blizzard games because I don't get to do this that often on the podcast or on the podcasts I do. And it's just really great to be able to let this out and speculate on the future of WoW, the future of Hearthstone, all that fun stuff. So thank you to Rising Sun, to Art of Anime, as well as to Brenton Volley. And obviously, we will be back for other things that I'm foreshadowing, totally not holding Zalatath in the background. And we will see you guys for those. Until then, take care.
Bye, everyone.